you'll know you're there. It's not a secret.
And there we are. So welcome to Mike's podcast. Mike Nunley, getting real.
Oh, I like it.
I know it. I love it. I love it. So today we're to kind of, bring everything, introduce them. We have Jill and Brandi. And Brandy's the one with the short haircut. Jill's the one with the long haircut. So
long haircut.
Can't
contradicting a little bit.
It's okay.
The unhaircut.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. I've been known to say some pretty stupid shit.
Yeah.
So it's not.
We
it's
went to
not
law school.
surprising.
We're the one that says the word.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
our expertise.
Yeah. And what we're doing today, because you guys are here because both of you have finished law school. Both of you have your Juris Doctorates. Jill just finished taking the bar exam, which she, I understand, feels pretty comfortable and confident on, which is a great thing. And Brandi, you're studying for yours for Navajo Nation in New Mexico, which is, when is that?
March 25th.
March 25th.
Yep,
So
actually my second daughter's birthday. So it's on my kid's birthday. I'm like, hey, happy birthday. I get to avoid you today.
yeah, that's my present. You don't even have to wrap it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, so that being an accomplishment in and by itself for anybody, both of you have some pretty extraordinary stories leading up to where you are at today. Brandi, let's start with you. When you were, young, going back to teenage years.
Oh boy.
Yeah. That's kind of where your story really begins.
Yeah, I think all of it, like most of us, I think our teenagers are pretty formative. I moved out about a month before I turned 16. I was not interested in being in high school, so I dropped out in 9th grade. I went to 9 high schools in my freshman year because I didn't like high school. I didn't like it at all. And my mom was, get a job or go to school. And when you're 15, there's not a lot of jobs.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I guess I better go to school. So I started college right before I turned 16, and I had to get my GED before I turned 16. So I had like a month. I went and got my GED, and then, like every teenager, I was then too good to be living with my family because now I was coming up in the world. I had a GED, and so I moved out and I couch surfed, and I lived with friends, just about anybody I could find. I didn't have a birth certificate or driver's license. I didn't have any of that stuff, and so I just kind of couch surfed with friends, and then I got married at 17. That was like the easiest way to secure housing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Didn't really give it a whole lot of thought.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Just kind of found yourself there. This sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, no, I remember his parents looking at me and being like, do your mom or parents know that you're 17 and you're not even in Texas, you're here in New Mexico? Like, this feels really unsafe. And I was like, oh, they're going to kick me out. I'm going to marry this guy. Total wrong reasons to do it. Yeah. But I was like, I'm not getting kicked out again.
Done with the couch surfing.
Yep. Yeah. And so I married my first husband, had 2 kids, and we were married for 10 years and didn't get a degree. I didn't get my first degree until I was 33 years old.
Really?
Like
yeah.
Yeah. So you're 17, living in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Your family lives in Texas.
Yep.
And so right then in that particular same era with, before we jump into you going to college and getting your degree and, fast tracking in there, what was marriage like at 17 for you?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's see.
When she's laughing, you gotta.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that was kind of a nervous laugh.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, what do I not say and what do I say? Well, that's kind of the thing when you're young and you get married, and I mean, you're marrying a young guy too, right? So it's basically like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. So how old was he? Same age?
He was 18, so 18. He was only a year older than me.
An older guy.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Well, no, actually, the funny thing about my first husband is I met him in elementary school before, because my family's always been in New Mexico, and I got sent to Texas for military school.
And got kicked out.
And then I made myself get kicked out. And then we came back, and then I came back to New Mexico, but when I was in elementary school, I pushed him off the slide, and I gave him a concussion in first grade. my first husband.
Yeah,
and
but
I
at
was,
that age, that's a sign of love.
oh yeah, I was relentlessly mean to him, and just I would kick dirt at him, and I had like recess revoked for like the whole year, and it was horrible. And then later he married me. I'm like, you are just as dumb as I am.
Yeah. Absolutely knew what he was getting into.
Yeah. Well, and there was, I won't lie, there was a lot of drugs involved when I was younger. When you move out at 15, nobody's there to tell you no.
Right.
No, and then when you're couch surfing, you find yourself in a lot of situations. It's not like there's a lot of good people in the world who are like, oh, a 16-year-old girl with no parental figures better put you in the convent. Like, that doesn't happen. So, I spent a lot of time. My first husband and I, we sold drugs for a long time, actually, and that's how we ended up moving to San Antonio. And once we were about to get busted, we moved and sold our house. We had a trailer. See, this is why I hate trailers. We had a trailer, and we sold the trailer, and we packed up our things and just went to Texas and had nothing planned. No housing, no jobs, no, like a bunch of idiots, like a...
Yeah,
Showed up.
Yeah, 17, 18 years old, you're not making a lot of plans.
No.
You really, no one's taught you how. You don't know, the reason, what's the point. We're just, we're going to go. We're living day by day.
Yeah, it's fun, though. Yeah. It's probably not as fun looking back at it. Now I'm like, what was wrong with me? Jesus.
Well, you're looking back at it from an adult perspective now versus back then when you were just a kid.
My famous line is, "Where were my parents?" Like,
right?
You think back and you go, "Where was I? Wait, where were my parents?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So okay, so you're 17, married an 18-year-old. You're living in New Mexico. You're selling drugs to make money. So you obviously don't have a job. You're not employed. No,
I tried. I waited tables, but that's the thing with drugs, though. Fast money. One of the things that my mom told me when she came to the strip club that I was working at later is, she's like, Brandi, this is a bad idea. You're not going to be pretty forever. Mm-hmm. And this is fast money, and this is going to go. And I don't know why that stuck with, probably because my mother met me at a strip club, and I was working at the strip club. So that really stuck with me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you're right. I got to figure something out.
Yeah. Also, too, Mom, not now. I'm working.
Yeah. I was like, dude, don't bring your boyfriend here. Yeah. Like, this is weird. Yeah. It's not a family work environment.
Yeah. No. So how old were you when you're at a strip club?
I started working at the strip clubs. I actually started waiting. I was a cocktail waitress at the first one. River City Cabaret on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. And I remember that Adams Mark Hotel was right in front of it. And it was just, I felt like we were fancy and swanky, and it was cool. And I waited cocktail tables for about a year, maybe 9 months. And then I started dancing. You work and you see how much money those ladies make every night. Right. And you're like, I don't want just the waitress tip money anymore. I want the good money now. So,
is it really true? I mean, in a strip club, that those girls do make a lot of money?
Oh yeah, I would. Waiting tables. I think our rent was like $1,200 back in those days. And I made rent. I could make rent in one day, just being the cocktail waitress. And so some of those dancers were making like $5,000 a night.
You're kidding me.
And that's where the big money is, And so we all wanted to be that lady. Now, we don't realize that every industry, there's a hustle involved in it. But when you're like 18 and you're like, oh, look at that girl. Like, I could take my top off and shake around like her. Well, you don't know. There's like, she knows people and, and so you're just out there flopping around like a seal hoping to make the big bucks. That's not how it works, Yeah. And like falling off the pole. Nobody's paying for that. So
I don't know. That sounds pretty entertaining. I got a comedy show and a strip club.
And then I think I got pregnant when I was right before I turned 21. So I didn't have a long run of it.
Right.
Before it became very serious.
Okay, let me ask a question. Probably all the guys are all out there listening to this are thinking the same thing. What did your husband think when you started working at the strip club as a dancer?
Oh, that was great. It was good money. He didn't have to. He was a busboy. So one of the things that I've kind of, realized in my first marriage was I was really carrying someone else. And we were just, it was like the worst combination of people because He's a great friend. He's the funniest guy in the world. Him and I, though, we create this horrible environment where I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. But fun doesn't always mean good for you. And so it was like, oh, you're at the strip club. That's fun. I'm going to bring my bros and we're going to bring this and we're going to do that and we'll go get drunk. And then, so it was just like a total party environment. Yeah. So he would come to the strip club and he would dress up like a girl and he would sit at the bar and he would have guys buy him drinks. Oh. So my husband would be sitting at my bar at the strip club in my bar having other dudes buy him drinks and they didn't know because my ex-husband is 5'10" and 115 pounds. Oh so bean pole skin. So he'd throw a wig on and he would just sit there all night long and let dudes buy him drinks. All night long. And I would just be like, well, yeah, I guess that's free booze. When you're like 17, 18, you don't care. You're like, free booze is free booze.
I guess this picture is starting to develop in my head. We got a 17, 18-year-old girl married who decided that she's going to work at a strip club, which nothing wrong with that. We got no problem making some money, doing your thing. But you're married, and your husband is okay with it.
Oh, yeah.
Because he gets to come there dressed like a girl and get free drinks.
Oh, yeah. No, you
and
don't realize.
And his rent paid.
Oh, and his rent paid.
Yeah, see, you never really realize how wrong the story is until you tell other people, right? That's always how it works.
Yeah. So now we've got you not out of high school because you didn't finish high school. But you went back at some point and you got your GED. Mm-hmm. So you got a GED, but then you're out of the house, you're couch surfing, decide you're going to get married. So you marry an 18-year-old, and as the story goes, boom, 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 you're in a strip club, you're making money, you're doing all this thing. Jill, same age, high school to 20 years old. What were you doing? What's your story?
Let's see, I got to think about that.
You're going to have to move that a little bit closer. Yeah.
I don't have to think about that. I wasn't as colorful as my dear friend. Grew up in Palos Verdes. Met my first husband when I was 20. No. I was 18, and just almost 19, and he was 18. And we got married when I was, I think, 21, 22 years old. 22.
So we were together. What was your high school experience like when you were in high school and you're at that same age? What was your experiences in high school? How did you do in high school? What were the
I did okay in high school. I could have done better because a lot of it was it's just very social. I grew up in Palos Verdes, and it's a very closed universe there, and it's very sheltered. And so just basically just on the weekends, we would just go to a friend's house, and that was the only thing that I did. I never touched a drug, but we did drink. We were drinkers, and we did drink at 15, 16, 17 years old, and skipped a lot of fifth period after lunch. We would go to lunch and not come back, and so we did a lot of ditching and stuff like that. And then I graduated and I started a junior college, and worked a lot. I worked a lot of waitressing. I did waitress, I think 2 different.
Was school easy for you?
No. I was in special needs classes for severe dyslexia and ADD, but severe dyslexia, actually, they were going to hold me back a couple times. And I was starting in 5th grade, they were going to hold me back, so they put me in special needs in 5th grade. So from 5th grade all the way up into my, I want to say 2nd year of college or 3rd year of college, I think I was in special needs classes.
So did they actually test you for dyslexia or ADD? Yeah. So they knew exactly what it was. They knew what the special needs were, and their answer to that was just put you in special needs class.
Yeah. So I was in classes with wheelchair kids and kids that had Downs and autism and stuff like that. So when I got into college, I loved it so much. Not being special. I mean, that was a challenge, but I mean, just around people. And I became the spokesperson for Canine Companions for Independence at LA Harbor College. So they had like this little, radio broadcast thing, and they had, back then, whatever version of YouTube is now, but I worked with a lot of the students there that had the dogs and stuff, and I was their spokesperson because I just loved it so much. So
That's super cool.
yeah, so that's what I thought. I've always wanted to be a lawyer, and when I was in 8th grade, I talked to, this is kind of digressing, I talked to one of my counselors when I was in 8th grade, and she said, "You will never become a lawyer." She said, "Don't even think about it." She said, secretarial work probably would be best for me. So I thought basically that was pretty much
They
right.
treated dyslexia different back in the day.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I became the spokesperson, I started realizing that maybe I could actually not be something, but I could actually do something, because there's a side of me that wants to help people so badly, and I love it so much. It's something waitressing. I always said waitressing was my favorite. If I could make $100,000 a year waitressing, I would.
But
just
you weren't taking
love
your
it.
clothes off.
No,
Yeah.
no.
That's how you make $100,000 a year.
Yeah, Just say now you tell me. But anyways, but so yeah.
Can
so
you just pull that mic just a little closer to your face, Mom?
Oh yeah. Sorry, maybe I should sit up.
Here, hold
No,
on.
yeah, you can pull it. You can just pull it.
Hold on.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because I want you to be able to sit back, like,
Oh, okay.
as you feel comfortable. But I just need it closer to your face because you have a quieter
Quiet
voice.
voice,
That's
okay.
all.
Yeah.
So no big deal.
So anyway,
I like Brandi.
yeah,
It is very boomy.
yeah, it's bombastic. Remember we
It
talked
is
about that.
bombastic. Indeed.
So, anyways, go ahead.
So let's see, where was I? So basically, I wanted to help people, and I loved that. So as I was going, going further on in college, then I got married and started having kids within a year of getting married. Actually, it was less than a year. And actually, yeah, it was less than a year. And I just kept taking classes here and there at nighttime. I remember going to, with every of all of my children, I had, would go to school, and I remember just being pregnant in whatever lab that I had to, or whatever.
Let me take you back a little bit, back towards those high school years, because that was, while it was a fun period of time for you as far as the social end of it, and just being a kid and just having a good time, the school part. When that counselor told you would never be an attorney, because your dream, your desire to be an attorney started at a really, really young age.
Yeah, I was like seven or 8.
Oh, wow. That is early.
Yeah. What started that thought process of wanting to be an attorney at such a young age? I mean, honestly, when I was 7
Seriously.
years old, I wanted to be a cowboy.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
to be, to have 7 years old and to think about wanting to be an attorney, that's kind of extraordinary.
I think that because my dad's business, he had an attorney that was working for him, and his name was Steve Kaznelson. He's not, I don't think he's with us anymore, but he always fascinated me, this man. He was a total dad type guy, but he was the nicest kind of jolly, guy. But he was one of those very wealthy type attorneys. But that wasn't it that made me enamored with it. It was the fact that everybody relied on him. He was helpful. People needed him. And I wanted to be needed. And I wanted to affect things. I wanted people to be able to come to me, and I could actually be be helpful. I don't know how to articulate it. It's like, it's not a
It's
status
a mothering
thing. It's not,
thing.
Yeah, it's more, I guess it's more maternal, but there's something about it that I found so fascinating. Plus, I love history, and I always have. And in fact, the first couple of years of college, I was a history major, but because I love the Constitution and I love how, how everything just started in its inception and the Bill of Rights, and I love all that stuff, but I have since I was little, so it all kind of, I don't know, meshed. I just that's, I don't know.
Well, I
guess
think also, what you're saying, and how there was a feeling of wanting to be needed. And so, looking at being an attorney as somebody that can be in a position to help people and to do good things so that was more the driving factor.
And I found myself really attracted to movies of like the pro bono attorneys, the ones that are pulling up with bungee cords, closing their doors, and and getting out, and I just
Joe
found
Pesci's.
yeah. But I always found that I always thought that was just the coolest thing, that you've got an education and you're a lawyer and you can go and. It has nothing to do with money or being like, oh, I'm a lawyer. So, it's nothing to do with that. It's being literally so valuable that you could help people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, during that period of time, you also went through some other hardships. I don't know if you were, wanting to bring any of that up.
Like what? Which part? I mean, it all. So
Yeah.
no, I'm not shy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I have
you went through a period of time at a very early age, from I think it was 12, 13 years old until you were 17, where you had to deal with abuse.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a stepdad. It was a molestation issue, and it was literally almost every day until I finally got my driver's license right when I was 16, and so I was gone a lot.
God bless the driver's license, right?
Yeah, let me tell you. But yeah, it was pretty ugly. It was bad.
Yeah. So during your early years, you're having to deal not only going to school, special needs classes, and trying to kind of find your pathway, but you're also dealing with this, at home. So you really didn't have any kind of
place.
a safe haven that you could go to. School wasn't your safe haven.
No.
Home was no longer a safe haven.
So why I worked so much, because being at work, I was able to get away from.
Right.
A lot
and so all of this playing itself out, to when you graduated from high school, and you were actually you were able then at that point to remove yourself from the molestation and in that particular environment.
I took off to Europe for a month.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. I mean, it was, I think, a month after graduation I took off for a month.
Yeah.
Europe, so.
And then you had a boyfriend during that period of time that you had been with for
Scott.
For quite a while. And that had to help. That had to help.
Just because he was such an upstanding, amazing person. He's a very, very upstanding person.
Right. And so that kind of, I guess, took you out of a very dark period of time and then brought you into kind of a new era for you. And you started going to junior college and, so I'm telling your story,
No. I'm trying to think. It's interesting how you say, like, it pulled you out of a dark era. It really didn't. You know what I mean? Because you don't really escape that thing.
Yeah.
But the one thing with molestation is that it makes you feel vulnerable to bigger things. I don't know how, like a boss or the counselor tells me you'll never be this, and you start believing, because you're always kind of, because you're controlled. You can't escape that at 12 to 17 years. You can't. There's no escape, right? So when you get away from that, it takes you a long. Like now, I'm like, it's fine. But it's just like back then, you don't really escape it for a long time. So you become it. So in your life in school, and trying to better yourself, but you don't think about when school becomes something that it's a tool to escape. It's different than a tool like our kids, where they're going to school because they want to be something. They want to do something. They have goals. I didn't have that. I didn't have goals. Thank you. I was more about just escaping.
Right.
So it's a whole different thing, which is why it took me, a long time. Then I got married, and had kids and stuff. So.
Yeah. So this kind of brings you up, your story. It's full of challenges and hardships and all, just like yours was the same way, but just different. Just different. I mean, you guys were definitely on different paths, but the paths were all leading to the same direction.
Yeah, which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
To think that like they're just so different geographic locations and socioeconomic locations, and we can kind of all round out in the same place.
Yeah. So we're caught up, same age. You're married. Go back to you. Okay. Now you're 20 years old. You're pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Still working at the strip clubs.
Yes.
I was pregnant dancing, so
That's great.
stopped at a fetish club in Houston on the way when I moved, and I danced at a fetish club while I was pregnant.
While pregnant, really?
Yeah. It was the best money I made.
Really?
I only did it
I've
one
never
night,
heard of
and I
that.
made a ton.
Really?
That is crazy.
I was like, this is just weird. I can't even do this myself. Like, okay, you get one night and I'm done now.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, $5,000. I finally made it.
Yeah, no, if I wouldn't have been on the way to New Mexico actually traveling, I might have stayed. So
So that was actually just a stopover.
yeah, it was just a stopover on the way to when we were moving.
Hey baby, we need a little bit of extra cash.
Yeah.
There's a dance club.
Yeah, there's a strip club. Yeah, let's do
let's
it.
go.
Yeah, let's make some money real quick.
Isn't it funny now how some of this stuff that we're talking about, you can look back and it was dead serious at the time.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like humorous.
Now it's just hilarious. I think about this. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I could even be in the same room with myself when I was young. We would definitely have to fight with each other. It'd be some fisticuffs.
Yeah. So okay, now you're pregnant. You're on your way back to New Mexico. Again, do you have plans, or are you just on the road going back to New Mexico?
I don't think I ever made plans until I hit like 35. I don't think plans were a thing that I knew about, and if they were, I wasn't taught how to do them. So I just kind of did things without planning things.
Yeah.
So
I got to say we're all guilty of that, especially in our younger years. We just jumped into things, and that's.
you just do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, you really do. So you're on your way back to New Mexico. Things are just whatever.
Well,
that they are.
I started this is the thing with women, and I think Jill can probably verify this for me. It was when I got pregnant, and my husband was still doing ecstasy, still going to the parties, and I'm like, dude, I have to be sober. How come you get to go to parties?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you still doing the fun stuff? This isn't fair. And I'm working at the strip club, and you're not working, because he quit earlier than I did. And I was like, oh, this is not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this. And we didn't have jobs. We, luckily his father actually moved us from San Antonio. They took pity on our bad decisions, and they moved us back to Farmington, and we ended up living with my husband's this is a problem. My husband's grandmother's old trailer, and I mean trailer, like down like RV kind of trailer. Like, don't step on the hallway floor tile because it'll fall through the floor. So don't stand there, and you got to hose off the AC if you want it to be cold. Like some real redneck stuff. I was pretty mad. And and I remember my kid, my two oldest they're Irish twins. So one's the 25th of March and the other one's the 28th. And it's 2002 and then 2003. So I had my first kid in this trailer, and I decided to make an attempt. I was like, okay, I got to try this. I got married. This was my stupid decision. I had a child, which was my stupid decision. Now I've got to do some kind of parenting thing, whatever that means. So I'm going to try to stay home and like my husband and raise a kid. That was a bad idea for me. No.
Still not making good decisions.
No, it took a long time. I still don't know if I'm doing good decisions. And he got a job at the airport. He got fired because he missed a day of work when I had my second daughter, and they fired him.
Yeah,
no
if you could
paternity
only be a
leave.
lawyer back then. They fired him because you were in labor. Yeah.
Yep.
that would've been good.
So he got fired, and then it was like, all right, so someone's got to have a job because now we've got 2 kids. And none of us have a job, and we're living in a trailer in the middle of nowhere with like an air conditioner that doesn't work, and I'm pretty sure the water's got lead in it, and I don't want to kill these 2 little things that I've made, and so we decided that I had to go back to dancing. I'm like, once again, I think my career cycled back to dancing. And my mom, God bless her. I love my mom to death. She's had a rough one. And I think that kind of contributes to why I've kind of had a rough one because, she's been married a few times. And, she did the best she could with what she got. I'm not going to hold anything against her. But she would go missing on, months at a time. And I just kind of knew I wanted to be different with my kids. I wanted to be different. And so for me, that meant going back to school. And so I think I was 22 right after I had my second daughter, and I was stripping. I was like, oh, children are hard.
Yeah.
They're awake and they touch things and you clean a lot more. And if you're like if you're just a married couple and you're young, you're 20s, you don't realize what cleaning is. And then you have kids and you're like, oh, that's cleaning. No, I don't like this. And
then you had 2.
Yeah, and then there were 2 of them. And so I was like, oh, I cannot be a dancer forever. I am so exhausted because you would go to work at like 9 o'clock at night. You get off at 3 in the morning. And then you come home to 2 little kids that don't sleep through the night. And they want to touch everything. They want to run around. You can't take a nap. And I decided I might as well go to school. So that's when I went back to community college and started giving it. I might have been the only girl that was actually going to college and stripping. Like I hear it all the time.
Yeah, beautiful young college girl can't make ends meet, has to strip. Just
right.
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah. Nah, not too many of them doing that.
Nah.
No.
Yeah.
But I did. It was hard. It was really hard. But and that's kind of the struggle, right? Like you're trying to do the best you can. And I was exhausting. I was so tired. So I started doing meth. Because what do you do in a strip club when you need more time? You find meth. And so, I fell into that cycle probably for about 6 months until I was like sitting in my mom's driveway on a Christmas with my kids inside the house, my husband in the house, all my family. I'm sitting in a driveway smoking meth on Christmas. I was like, well, this is the Grinch who stole Christmas, if anything, right? Like this is like, if you could be a bigger piece of shit, like that was about the moment. I was like, wow.
So you did have that epiphany at that point in that time of what you were doing.
Oh yeah, it was very apparent to me. It was almost like one of those Norman Rockwell movies because there's this huge window that you can see in the living room, and there's a tree. And I'm sitting in this stupid van, right? It's like a rape van, basically, smoking meth. Yeah, like looking up into this beautiful Christmas where they have a tree and these happy children. And I'm like, that's mine. And I'm out here in the meth van. Yay, And so that's when I like, And I was like, oh, no, I'm done. Can't do that anymore. That's not working out. I don't want to be that guy in the Rockwell movie. So,
yeah. So, okay. So now you're how old?
22.
You're 22. What a life so far.
See how similar our lives are?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. 20.
We end up here at the exact same.
Yeah. 22 years old. You're in a rape van.
Yep.
Smoking meth.
Yep.
Looking at your family having Christmas.
Yep. Off aluminum foil with a Bic pen. Just like a real winner.
Yeah. But, okay. So now that night that you had this epiphany, this come to Jesus thought of this isn't right. Yeah. Did you actually stop drugs at that time?
Yes.
That was it.
Yep.
Just cold turkey.
Yep.
Walked away. Not doing this anymore.
Yep. And I won't be in a room with people. Like if people will be like, you should meet my friend. And if I look at them and I'm like, oh no, that person, I won't even meet people because, I think it's probably been like almost 25 or 30 years, but still, I just won't be around it because I know I cannot trust myself.
Yeah.
I just can't. And I don't care. I'm
And
like,
that's
whatever. If you're going to do meth, go away. I don't need you in my life anyway, so.
Yeah, that's a smart decision, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know.
Yeah.
There's a probability that now where you're at in life, how you think about life,
Yeah.
that you would have the strength to go, no, I'm not going down that path.
Well, plus
But
I'd kill
you
you.
don't. But you
I'd
don't know.
kill you.
Yeah, and I've seen people die. Like I've seen people die in front of me from doing drugs,
Yeah.
And I don't know, my mom would just look at me and we never had the conversation. Like I think it was a few years ago I was telling my mom one of my stories and she's like, I just never believed you, Brandi. And I'm like, what'd you think I was doing? Like, I'm telling you the truth. You thought I was lying all these years? I was volunteering a Good Samaritan. What's wrong with you?
Soup kitchens. Yeah.
No, you were stripping so you can go to school.
Yeah, she just didn't believe me. I think she just had such a rose-colored glasses. I mean, talk about like the darkest tinted rose-colored glasses, but she just...
Yeah, but as parents, you don't want to think that.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to shade your vision and not admit to yourself because there's some failure on your end as a parent that you're looking at something like that. Okay, where'd I go wrong?
Yeah, that's hard.
Maybe I shouldn't have been gone for that 1 month. And
yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah, no, and and I think I really decided to. My husband wasn't doing very good. I'm trying to be nice to you, Brandon. If you ever listen to this, I'm trying, buddy.
I know.
So
How far does this reach?
I'm like, I'm trying to be good here. I'm trying not to give away the farm. And we come from a small town, really small town, and unfortunately, his father had a really bad reputation in the small town because his dad had been put in jail for child molestation. Which is kind of when I found that out after being lied to, that kind of was one of the things that caused the divorce. I was like, we have 2 daughters. Never mentioned this one. Not okay. That's a big lie. That's a big no-no.
yeah.
But, he just couldn't get a job to save his life, or at least a job that would support us. And so I told my mom, I was like, look, these are my options. I'm going to join the Army or I've got to keep dancing. So I actually joined the Army. And I signed up and I did my ASVAB and I went to, I got pregnant. The day I was supposed to get on the bus, they test you, they piss test you to see, and I was pregnant. And I was like, holy hell. I had no clue. And so, unfortunately I lost that child, but it did save me from ending up in boot camp. And that's okay because I married an Army guy later anyways.
Found out through him that's not a place you wanted to go.
No. If I couldn't make it through military school, why did I think I was going to make it in the Army? Like, that was the dumbest idea. I was not a smart child. Somebody should have, like, smacked me upside the head and been like, really, lady? Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a definite turning point for all kids when they go from having adolescent mentality to actual adult mentality, and at 22 you weren't there yet. You were still about 5 years away.
Oh yeah. And God bless my mom, she gave me a job. I had been doing telemarketing kind of off and on. Boy, can I lie to people over the phone, let me tell you. And we were selling coupon books and all kinds of nonsense. And my mom, she's got a PhD in healthcare, and she was running this big company. And they were starting this, this was like 20 years ago, so don't laugh at me now. It was a health and wellness program, and no one had ever heard of these things before. And nobody knew what, the return on investment for keeping your health was. And, so I started this program for her, and it required us calling all these employees and being like, do you want to come in and have a health and wellness check? And we'll test your BMI and stuff. And so, and she made me start at, I think it was like $7.50 an hour was minimum wage because she didn't want no nepotism because she was the CEO. So she didn't want it to look like I had a leg up or anything. So I started at the very bottom. And I worked that job for 10 years
Yeah.
and
10 years.
worked the hell out of that job. I think having stability, I think it was my first taste of stability is what that was. And the moment I got it, I held on to it, and I was like,
So were you, okay, at this age, now you had the third child. Okay, so you're obviously older than the 22. So were you still 24, 25 in that range?
so I started with her when I was 23.
23.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's,
And I had the two kids, just the two at that point. So,
but it's really kind of amazing that you went from the lifestyle that you had where you were dancing, pregnant, coming out of drug use, all this, and all of a sudden you get this telemarketing job and it becomes your beginning of stability.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, it was just a dumb job. It was, I think my mom saw me in this cycle
Right.
where it's like wash, rinse, repeat. Do I work at a waitress at the Village Inn, or do I go back to stripping? Because
Right.
fast money, that's the problem,
Right.
fast money. And
Right.
she had this really just crappy entry level $7.50 an hour job. And I was like, I'll take it because my husband's not got a job and I need something. So I took it, and I didn't think I would like office work. And I always said I would never work in healthcare. Never going to be in healthcare. I hate healthcare. And because my mom had, PhD in healthcare. My stepfather was a doctor. My uncle's a doctor. My aunt's a doctor. Everybody's a doctor. Oh, so many medical people. I was like, you're never going to get me to do it. And she was always like, you should go to nursing school. And I was not having that. But that was my job. The one that saved me was doing telemarketing for healthcare.
So let me, I got to back up for a second because mom is now kind of an interesting conversation because she's got a PhD. She's into healthcare, married to a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Where did her life change? Because early on, she was
Oh, yeah.
here again, gone again, mom.
Oh, yeah. So
Sorry, mom. I don't mean to be.
Oh, no. I tell my mom and I are always very honest with each other. I consider her more my best friend, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of, that's how she treated me. And we're okay with that. Like, no hard feelings. I have two younger sisters. My mom was married for about 10 years to my father. And my sister, I have two younger sisters, and they were 6 months and a year and a half when my mom divorced my father. And I was 8. And she told us, and then we got in a car, and then we drove to Texas. And I never saw him again. So I didn't talk to my mom for 2 years. She sent me to counseling. I was really mad about that. I was real upset. Mm-hmm. And didn't really understand anything. I had mostly spent most of my time with my grandparents when my parents were married because they both worked. My mom was a nurse. And then when my mom got her bachelor's degree in nursing, I think she felt like she could leave my father. I think it made her feel like it was acceptable at that point, like she could do it on her own. She had the education. Now, she wasn't telling us that, she was a very poor communicator. So there's a lot of points in my life where it's like, well, one day we were doing this and the next day we moved. One day I was doing this and the next day it was all different. So, and, she moved us to San Antonio and she got a job and she dated a lot of sketchy people. And, she's a single woman with 3 kids living in San Antonio. And we ended up living on like the really, really bad side of town, just super bad side of town. And, she would work as much as she could. And we had nannies. I remember Alma and Letty, and they would stay at our house and they would watch me and my sisters. And I don't know what she did. I guess we just didn't talk about that. She didn't want to tell us. I don't know. And she would go do things. And I remember when she married, I call him the rich guy. We just call him the rich guy. When she married the rich guy, she went missing for about 3 months. And I didn't know where my mom had gone. And it was me and I was taking care of my sisters, taking them to school and stuff. And I had to call my grandparents. I'm like, do you know where mom is? Because we're hungry. And it's been a month. Christmas is going to be here in 3 weeks. And I want presents. Like when you're in 5th grade, you're like, oh, Christmas. You're not like, where's mom? You're more like, there's not going to be any presents here.
Yeah.
So-
somebody find this lady.
So there was no checking in and, you guys
Yeah.
all doing well. Everything's good. It was literally 3 months just gone, disappeared.
Yeah. And, my grandparents drove down from New Mexico and parked their RV in front of our crappy little house. And then my mom showed up. And it was never really a big deal. We never talked about, like mom going, like if mom goes missing, you just call grandma and grandpa. Grandma and grandpa will show up or, whatever. But it was never really a big deal. But I did have a lot of autonomy growing up. I took one of my sisters, I drop them off at daycare, and then I take the other one to school with me, and then we'd get out of school, and then we go pick up our sister from daycare and go home. It's just...
Okay, so, but then during this time, okay, so mom's married to your dad. While they're married, she's working on getting her bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
Gets her bachelor's, moves away, goes to San Antonio, crappy part of town, disappears for 3 months or a month at a time, and you just gone, leaves you in charge.
Yeah.
So now you are 14, 13?
5th grade.
5th grade? Oh my God, that's 12.
Yeah, 12.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
11,
So you're 12 years old and you're a mom to the little ones,
Yeah.
and mom's not around. No money coming in.
Nope.
No growth. Holy crap.
That's what school's
Man.
for. School
Yeah.
lunch, right? School
Yeah.
lunch, school breakfast. Like, I'm a big believer. I love school pizza. God bless it. Kept me alive.
That's just crazy.
Square pizza, man. You can't, that's where the ticket is.
So we're going to leave mom. We had an understanding of where you were at 12 years old, what mom was doing, what you were doing, and you left all that behind at 15 years old, got married at 17, and okay, so we got that whole thing going on. Now you're married, you got 3 kids.
Two kids.
Two.
2 kids because I lost the 3rd one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, luckily.
Well, you've left that part of the story
No,
out.
no,
so-
she said it.
Oh,
Yeah,
she did?
just luckily.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what kept her from going.
That's why I didn't have to go to boot. Yeah.
Oh.
Otherwise, I would.
Okay.
Otherwise,
My
I'd be a
fault.
lot thinner and maybe still dancing. I don't know.
Okay, so now I know you don't want to throw the ex under the bus. I get that.
He's still my friend.
Yeah.
He's still I consider him my best friend. Honestly,
Really?
like one of my best friends.
Okay.
I
It just wasn't a good.
no,
match.
him and I were just bad for each other. Just oh boy, enablers. Two
You
enablers
laugh,
together.
though. You
Yeah.
laugh about- when you bring up your ex, you always go and you get a little giggle, and then you die.
Yeah, he is.
He's one of those guys,
Yeah. Okay, so you got the 2 kids. You're ready for divorce. You want to go back to school. You're married.
Married, yes.
Start right there.
Oh gosh, married.
We've got you from already through high school, dyslexia, your whole story. Okay, now you're 19, 20? How old
I
are you?
was, I think I was 21.
21.
21, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I got married August. And I turned, 22, in January. So it was 21. And just served tables and went to school. And then I got pregnant on my honeymoon. Just saying, I did.
With your oldest, Stephen.
Yeah, with Stephen.
Who just walked in.
Who just walked in.
I think that's the only
I told you.
appropriate time.
I told you. Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
you're
it's
gonna
my-
have to either
Honeymoon
move
kids.
your
Sorry.
chair closer or
Is that better?
yeah, your voice
Much
is
better?
your voice is very
I'm sorry.
You can just
like
tilt,
it.
like see how
Oh,
the
okay.
mic. You can just rotate it towards your face.
Okay.
And just so you're
yeah, you can't hurt it. So
Like
there,
that?
there you go.
directly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I had Stephen, and then and like I said, once you have your babies, Stephen didn't really walk until he was like 3 because he was I had him right here.
Yeah, you had what do they call that papoose thing or something?
Yeah,
You're,
exactly.
you're Indian.
Exactly.
You know? yeah, right there.
He was like the love of my life. And then, so I would work at night and go to school, and never put him in any. Well, actually, for a very short time, he went into part-time daycare. But I was one of those. I just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom so bad.
Right.
I just not an anti-daycare person, but just for me, I wanted to be home. So I tended to work opposite hours of his dad. And then things went kind of south with his dad, and I still plugged along and went to school and stuff like that. And then we got back together, and I had my daughter Dylan and Brian, and then things kind of went south. So all along, just, I've always taken a class every, I didn't stop. It was just one class at a time, sometimes two. Sometimes I would take three, and then I'd have to drop it because I'd have my kids, and, it just, and when you're a single mom and you are in between, it was hard. It was
now being a single mom, for you, and trying to work, and you've got 3 kids, how were you handling it? How financially were you handling it? What was your mindset? Were you still going to school during that whole period of time, or were you missing out on certain parts of school? And what was, because I know that was a period of your life that was a real hardship.
Yeah, it was really hard because my husband left when I was 6 weeks postpartum with Brian, with my last, and I got accepted to law school. I went through, and did all my stuff or whatever, and got accepted to law school, and I was supposed to start about, Brian was born in March. I was supposed to start October. I think it was like September.
Did you do the LSAT?
Huh? Yeah.
You did? Wow. Did you do good on the LSAT?
I did.
I've been too afraid to do it. I won't
you
lie.
should.
I got a prep book, and I was like,
you should do it.
I'm never going to pass this.
Yeah. So that was actually at the time when you could actually get enough credits to go and get accepted to law school without a bachelor's degree, as long as you sit for the
Yeah.
So I did, and I was supposed to start, and unfortunately he left, so I didn't get to start law school. So I babysat during the day. I used to drive kids back and forth to school and pick up, because a lot of parents couldn't do that. So I was that person, so they would pay me, and they paid me to babysit kids also. And then I went on welfare, and so I was able to.
Entitlement program.
What? that
Don't
welfare?
say welfare.
It was
say
the best thing
entitlement.
ever. It was the best insurance I've ever had. I got these little coupon whatever, and it was $100 a week to be able to feed the kids, and I nursed, and I was like, it was the best thing ever. And so.
Oh yeah, I think welfare
It was the best.
And what it was set up for, what the intentions of welfare.
It was a blessing.
It's
Totally.
definitely a blessing to a lot of families.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's been so much abuse of it
It's
over the years
unfortunate.
that has taken a really negative turn towards.
Yeah. No, and it was weird because my parents had a lot of money, and I
Right.
didn't. It's weird. I look back and I go, why didn't I ask them? But they kind of knew, but I don't think they really understood how bad off I was, and as far as like financially. But I would say that welfare was the best thing, and it totally saved me. And, I was able to barely make my rent. I remember, and I'm not exaggerating, I had a pay or quit notice on my door every single month, because when the welfare would come in between that and my daycare, business, if you will, I didn't really have a business because I had like 4 kids that I was watching, but I was always like 6 or 8 days or 10 days late on my rent. So every month, I had a pay or quit notice on my door. But, and I had a van that I drove kids, to whatever, no air conditioning. And at this point I was living in Palm Springs. So it was 120. So I get everybody ice chips, and everybody, we play music, and, you just.
Luckily, kids are pretty adaptable.
It's weird because I look back and like now, I think, God, I would so whine. But back then I don't remember ever feeling anything. Like, you just do what you have to do.
Right.
Like you just don't really think about it.
Put your head down
Yeah.
and deal with it.
I don't have air conditioning. Okay, where's the popsicles? You can go to freaking Dollar Tree and get them. And ice. I remember ice, and I would hand them to the kids, and it was.
Did you tell them they were popsicle chips?
I didn't. Don't. Yeah. No. And then also, of course, you can do the juice. You mix the juice, and you can do the frozen juice things or whatever. So
Oh
you
yeah.
can get,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
those. They actually had those plastic
Yeah.
pop things
Yeah.
that you fill them up,
Yeah.
put them in the freezer.
Even
yeah.
cheaper than popsicles. So
Yep.
that, and it totally
yeah.
worked, and you just got through
Oh,
it.
thank
and-
God they love probably macaroni and cheese. And
Oh yeah.
all
Oh
that
no,
good
we
stuff.
lived on pasta. Pasta was my best friend back then. Let me tell you, we had pasta probably 5 out of 7 days a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I wouldn't even know the other 2 days what we'd have, because my kids never went, hungry.
I'm going to bring Brian in on this one because did you even notice? So everybody knows that Jill is my wife and Brian's mom. So did you even notice that you were poor, that you ends weren't making it, and you were eating chips?
The cool thing
Actually,
about
Stevie
being
can
really
remember
little, being a child, is you have no concept of capitalism. So
Right.
there's it's a fair trade. You know what I mean? Like whatever I had, as long as she had a smile on her face, I did too. So it was like, oh, this is a good thing. Like ice chips, fun. And to be honest, I don't even remember. Like I remember very fine snippets of memory from when I was that little. I remember what our apartment looked like. I remember what the walkway down the middle of the apartments looked like, and the winding little sidewalk thing. And I remember like little stuff like that, but I don't really remember any of the gory details. So
I remember Stephen saying it was like one of the best times in our life, because it was like, I had. The kids had 2 rooms, so they had their room and I had my room. But we'd all like go out and sleep in the living room together, because we had one television, and we would sleep together, just all of us, like a little sleepover. It was just, we were so close.
Made the best of what you had.
Yeah, and Stephen, he said it was, and I remember having pasta. And I remember playing loud Christian music, and we used to play Christian music all the time and dance. That's
Christian
what our
music.
thing.
What do you, Eminem?
Oh, and Eminem. Yeah, and then
We're
also
talking
Eminem.
2000, 2001 Eminem.
Okay, that's
yeah,
not.
Was
That's
that
Old
when he
Testament.
was a Reverend Eminem?
This is when he was
No, we
Slim
played-
Shady, sir.
Reverend
Right?
Slim Shady.
Yeah, so
yes.
talk about the religious, angelic mother that I have, literally playing "Will the Real Slim Shady Please Stand Up?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
please,
in this van
exactly.
with no AC.
No,
Nice.
Yeah, and I also remember, I think
I blew out 2 speakers.
one
I did.
time
On the
I
Christian
Yeah, I
gospel
did.
music.
Yeah, no, that was in the apartment. But when we would go get in the van, we would
kept
play.
it gangsta.
Yeah, that, and then and Depeche Mode, and we would play.
Depeche Mode. I can see you.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think there was something else that we used to.
Flock of
Dido.
Seagulls.
Dido, yeah, a lot of Linkin Park.
Oh, Linkin,
Love
yeah.
Linkin Park, yeah.
But I remember, I specifically remember one time, I think in class, they had like asked us as kids to, talk about our hero and stuff. And obviously, my mom was my hero at the time. But I think I remember specifically saying, like, I want to get you that washer machine that we needed we needed something really bad at the time. And it was like, we're going to get there, we're going to make it, and I'm going to get you that washing machine we need, and stuff like that.
Kids are cute, aren't they?
Yeah. She's still waiting for it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, IOU.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're raising the kids. You're on your own. When did you start going to school regularly enough, or did you ever?
Never. I was always a class, sometimes 2 classes at a time.
You were saying that you passed the
LSAT.
LSAT and you were going to go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I got accepted to Western State Law School, and it was an hour and 10 minutes from my house, and it was 3 days a week. And I was trying to figure out how I could pay somebody to watch the kids while I went to law school. And so I took on a couple of other kids in an apartment. That was the other thing, is that I was doing daycare, which I wasn't allowed to. So I had to keep it under wraps. You can't do daycare. And so I had, like, at this point, like 5 kids, to include a couple babies, which flipping love babies. But and I was trying to figure out how to hoard my money so that I could pay somebody to, while I was in school, because it was an hour there, hour and 10 minutes there, an hour and 10 minutes back. And then plus it was 3 hours of class, and it was not 3 times, twice a week. So, and I was like, really excited about it. But
so your dream of being an attorney now has returned, and it's coming to fruition, if you will, thanks to the counselor back in the day. But okay, so you get accepted. You're there. What happened?
My husband left when I was 6 weeks postpartum, and I was supposed to start law school a couple months after that, and so I was unable to go because the tuition was $650 a month, and I couldn't afford the tuition. I could have with him home and me working 2 jobs, because I had 2 waitressing jobs, so I was able to pull together this $650 a month because he would be able to pay the rent, which was, I think back then it was $785 or something like that. So with his job and then me, we were able to do that. But then I couldn't afford the tuition, so I couldn't go.
So you never started.
No. I still have the letter though. I remember getting the letter that I got accepted, and I remember just crying because it was just like,
that's heartbreaking.
I was crying. I was so excited because I was like, I thought there's no way I'll never get into law school. Never, no, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's what you were told.
Yeah. And then when I wasn't able to go, I remember crying. That was one thing. It was hard, because then I realized it's probably never going to happen, and that's okay. I'm a mom, and that's.
Well, that's what we always tell ourselves. It's such a lie. It's okay. I'm a mom. I have beautiful children. Yeah. That doesn't comfort us. If we say it enough, maybe we'll believe it.
Yeah.
I have kids.
How come dads never say that?
Because they're not liars like we are. I have kids.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
No one believes it. That's why you don't say it.
I've never heard anybody ever say, "Oh, it's okay. I'm a dad."
Yeah. Dads are like, fuck that. No,
Exactly.
it's not okay.
But if a mom was like, fuck those kids, they'd be like, oh, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Don't get me going down that road where dads do say, "Oh, fuck those kids," and you never see them again.
It happens.
That's a huge pet peeve. That's in a podcast all on its own.
Yes.
So now you're both up to speed here. You're both
Divorced.
You're both.
I'm on my way to getting divorced in the story.
No, yeah. We'll go back to you. Get divorced for us, and then
I got divorced you'll love this one. It took me about 2 years. I caught my husband on the couch with my this is gonna be so confusing, so everyone's gonna have to bear with me. I caught my ex-husband on the couch having sex with my new husband's girlfriend.
Wait, go through that one again.
Yeah, so my current husband lived
Mike,
behind
Your
us.
phone's ringing. Hun.
Not mine.
Yeah, it's your phone.
In the bag.
Oh.
That's work
Oh,
phone.
it's his work phone.
You got a chunk in your face.
Peanuts.
I know. Okay, we're back. It's a good potty break. Okay, so now we've got both of you, and your story is pretty crazy.
That's sad.
Yeah, we got you up. You both have kids. You're both divorced. I think you were talking about your husband that you caught on the couch with
Who?
the girlfriend of your current husband.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that story.
This one, this particular podcast is going to go viral. It's the new Jerry Springer.
It is. No, seriously, I always wondered, where do I submit this? I want to get paid for this.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, we don't talk about nobody gets paid, do they, Brian?
Well, you get paid
Absolutely
in shame. Absolute shame.
Yeah, I'm giving him tacos later.
Hey, I'll take tacos. I don't have to cook it.
No, works for me, honestly. That's fine.
We'll work for food, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so
Real quick, Mom, just go ahead and pull that mic back closer to your face now that we're just sitting down again.
yeah, that needs to get closer to you.
Sorry, I should have done that before we started back up.
So are you filming right now?
Twist.
No.
Oh, okay.
There.
Thank you.
Yeah, just like there we go.
Good?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Oh my God, getting these girls all set up. Boys are so much easier. So,
It's not true.
they make such better attorneys.
Just easier to beat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so the story has gotten us up. You're both really knee deep in some current crap. With it's both boy related. Guys chasing boys, got kids, have no money.
That's when my career was just starting. That's when I was, when I divorced my first husband.
Yeah.
Sucks to be you, Brandon. That's when my life really started on an upward trajectory. I started lobbying. I had been in that telemarketing job, just plugging away at it, and taking every class business class, so all the Franklin Covey classes, I don't ever want to talk about Franklin Covey ever again. But all of those required boring classes, and I got a lobbying position. I actually just made the job myself, and I kind of have always lived by asking for forgiveness instead of permission. And so we had this health promotions program, and I'd been the telemarketer. And then after a year of the telemarketer, then I became the manager. And then after being the manager for a year, then I got to go and do the claims, medical claims, and got to be a claims adjudicator. And then after doing claims, I got to go work with medical management. So I kind of bounced around, and they wanted, one of the things my mom kept saying was, I want to make money for this company, and we need to get money and do this health promotions thing. So I got in my car and drove to Santa Fe, and I was like, let's ask somebody from where we live if they'll give us money. Mm-hmm. So not having any idea what I did, I just went to Santa Fe and started basically asking for money from the government. I don't think that was really legal, honestly. Now that I look back on it, Jill, I don't think maybe that you should solicit. Kind of looks like bribery, right? Going up to a senator hey, man, we need 50 grand. Can you give that to us?
Did it work?
It did, absolutely. My first year, I got $250,000 for a pilot program for, demographic information, collecting demographic information on the Native American population regarding diabetes and diabetes management. And so that was my first, oh, I'm a big boy now. And now I'm in a world with people that care about the things you do and the way you behave and your history and your past. And luckily, I just divorced Brandon, and him and I had been separated for about 2 years. And so I was, raising the kids on my own for 2 years before the divorce would go through. They never make those fast, do they? Mm-mm. They always drag that out.
Drag it out for some reason. They're hoping you're going to reconcile.
Yeah, that's not happening most of the time.
Not go through it. No, that's true. But, and the whole time you're raising the kids on your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, 2 years there.
No support, no help,
No, my mom was working full time. My mom didn't have time to raise. My mom was not grandmaing.
She's not that grandma.
No, not until many years later.
My mom never was really. She was good, sweet.
Good lady.
Very,
very good
but
lady.
never one day ever watched my kids. Ever. But yeah, she was a loving grandma, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so go back to you're now divorced. You're not doing the telemarketing, but you're still into the medical profession and all.
Still no degree. Still
no degree. So okay, let's talk about that, because the story is all leading up to. I mean, you both have earned your Juris Doctorates, and so that journey took both of you a long period of time. It wasn't.
Well, let's not say long. Let's not draw out the O.
Well,
yeah, really?
And it I guess it all depends on your perspective of it, because it does look pretty long. When you when you sprinkle it full of some of these emotional ups and downs.
It was long. It was.
Yeah. So you're when did school really start to come into your life to where it was an actual focal point of starting it because you had a plan and you wanted to finish? Probably the first time in your life you had an actual plan. But
when did it become
when did it become real school and not just
Well, I just want to start out. I never wanted to be a lawyer. Never wanted to be a lawyer. Never wanted to have kids. Never wanted to do any of the things that I am now. Did not want to end up here.
Yeah.
But I like where I ended up, funny enough. I don't know. School was... It sounds very bombastic of me to be like... Pompastic. Very pompastic to be like, school was... It was never challenging for me. It wasn't something that I ever felt like I got anything out of. It just seemed like a pain, to be honest with you. Like, just busy work and filling out this and no real purpose behind it. And so after I got my divorce and I remarried my husband, and I had 5 more kids and, multiple CEO jobs in the middle, a run-in with the mob, and then
do tell.
Oh yeah, lovely. Do you know the Armenian mafia is great? And if you're gonna work for mafia, I highly suggest the Armenians. They're very family oriented, and they're a good mob to work for. I was doing home health, and some man that I had met, I'm trying to watch my terms here, I don't want to be a little rude, but some Mormon guy, I had no idea who he was. My mom introduced me to him. I should have known that. And he was starting a home health company, and he needed somebody who understood accreditation. So I took him up on his offer, and I started a company for him out on the reservation, because most Caucasian people, I don't know how not to be racist to white people, but most white people don't understand how the reservation works. So they came to me, they wanted me to do this for them. So I set them up on the reservation. And funny enough, the guy, he was running a Ponzi scheme out of Nevada. And so I was like, oh boy, can't, and then he was doing really bad things on the res, and I couldn't abide it anymore. So I told him he was going to go to jail. I was like, I can't work for you anymore. You're going to go to pound you in the ass prison, and I don't want to go with you. And so he fired me, surprisingly enough. That's what happens when you tell your boss he's going to pound you in the ass prison. So don't do that. And I went to work for the competition, and the competition were these other set of Mormon brothers, and they had this really interesting kind of setup here. So it was kind of like competition for the company I just started, but they wanted me to open a doctor's office on the reservation. That was kind of my forte, kind of my thing. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And I opened the doctor's office, and while I was opening it, things started getting weird. I'm like, you're just going to give me $250,000? Like, you just gave me this. You realize that I'm 30-something, and we've only known, like, this isn't even a first date, and you're just going to give me all this money, And, like, I never had to go into a bank. I just got a phone call from somebody, and, I probably should have been a little bit keener to these things, but I was like, oh, yeah, you're the Wells Fargo lady. Yeah, this is my social and my driver's license number. Now I get a credit card, like. And so I would go around and I would start home health companies for them, or I would go to, like, Los Alamos, New Mexico, or Nevada, or, I go to a lot of different places for them and start these companies. And I would keep doing their books, and I'm like not a math person, but I'm like an Excel person. So I don't have to do the math. I can make the spreadsheet to do the math. And the money just wasn't adding up. Like, what we were taking in on claims never matched what was in the bank account, never matched, like, the finances just didn't make sense. And then one day I was doing a training for accreditation, and I had my mom's friend, who's an FBI agent, coming into a training for us. And he had been he'd been one of my mom's friends from high school. And when he found out the company, he was like, okay, you got to go and talk to these people in town that I know. Because he wouldn't, just tell me, right. Hey, you work for some really bad dudes. So he kind of, walked around in circles. And I went and I talked to them, and they were like, these guys are up to no good, right? And I was like, oh, well, I guess maybe that's a problem, huh? So, and I found out, that the companies were all shell companies for a guy whose name sounded like androgenic or something like that. And who has an extradition order out on him. And, it's funny enough, my company car, I still have my car, and I've never registered it because it's still registered to the guy with an extradition order. So I'm like, I ride double dirty. If I ever get pulled over, I got to explain that to somebody. And it's been 7 years, so that'll be a lot of explaining. But yeah, I worked for the mob for a while. I worked for them for 2 years before I realized that's what I was doing. And Man, I went to the FBI as fast as I could. I was like, here, what do you want? I give you everything.
Oh,
I don't want to be.
Did you get to go to the grand jury?
No, I didn't go. I didn't go on. I didn't want. I wanted to get so far away from that. I didn't end up in the grand jury on that one. Like, no. And so I just gave them everything. I was like, anything you want, I'll be your narc. You wire me up, whatever you want. I don't care. Just don't. I don't want to be in trouble. I didn't. I intentionally tried not to be in trouble this time, and look what happened. So
you got a car out of it.
I did. I got a car out of it.
Yeah, they should have met you when you're in your late teens, early 20s. It would have been game on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would have. Yeah, I'd have started all the Armenian DME companies they wanted.
Yeah.
Pay me off in crack.
Yeah, no, I'd have been fine. I'd have worked twice as fast.
Oh goodness. So did that all just dissolve and just kind of like go away over a period of time, and you quit working for him? And
No. I once I found out, I ratted him out to the FBI. When I sold him out, and then they found out. They were like, "You're not very. We heard you were talking shit about us," and I was like, "You're gonna fire me for some stuff like that? Not because I ratted you out to the FBI. Whatever lets you sleep at night, bro. Whatever." And so I quit with them, and I started working at a hospital that shall remain nameless because there was a DEA incident involved in that one too, with some doctors and some ketamine going missing, and that was my second year of law school. And then I got sick, and they diagnosed me with ALS in my second year of law school. And that was really hard for me. You have 7 kids, and you're like, 2 years, and then I'm going to die. What? It was my first year of law school because I hadn't even finished the baby bar yet, wasn't it? And so, I was still working at the time, trying to keep working when they diagnosed me with ALS. And it was a shocker. I didn't want to sit for the baby bar, so I quit studying. I just quit for a long time, and that So my life has been fast and hard, and just one foot in front of the other. Just figure it out as you go, I guess.
Right.
It's kind of like I imagine most of us, huh, Jill?
Well, yeah. I mean, you wear a cape under your clothes, in my opinion, because you're still, you graduated, you teach hundreds of people, you've taught hundreds. I mean, the Kardashian group freaking wanted you to teach, and you turned them down, and but you're just like, and then while you're getting your infusions too, and it's just a lot. It's a lot. And
I want to definitely come back where we left off with the ALS. We'll come back to that, but we're going to go over to you because now you're divorced. You got the 3 kids. You are working odd jobs, babysitting, on welfare, still going to school. Yeah. I had a neighbor that was just totally loved kids, and she couldn't have kids, and her name was Liz. She was like the best, most wonderful person, but she used to watch the kids at night when I would go to school. And then I started a coffee business, a coffee cart. And I leased a coffee cart and taught myself through YouTube or whatever how to be a barista. So I would go at nighttime and make into this commissary that I rented a space or whatever, and I would make sandwiches and soup and all this stuff. And then I would bring it home, put it in the refrigerator, go to bed, wake up at 5 a.m, and I would just let my kids down, and I was serving coffee like this really rag coffee cart with all this sandwiches and soup and all this stuff. And then I finally worked my way. I also took the real estate exam, so I decided to do that on the side, and I sold some houses, so I was able to kind of hoard my money. And then the kids by this time were starting school. Stephen, my oldest, was in school, so I just had Brian with me, and my daughter, and Dylan was in school, so I had Brian with me on this coffee cart thing, and it was, and so I did that,
and then College of the Desert out in the desert wanted me to put 5 coffee carts
Oh, wow.
and on the campus because I was like killing it. It was like it was really a fun business. And I met my second husband coaching soccer for Stephen, and we got married in 6 weeks.
So let me back up before you got married. You've got a little business.
Mm-hmm.
You're the kids are in school except for the
Brian.
youngest,
Mm-hmm.
and then you meet your husband. So that means you're coaching.
I was coaching soccer,
on top of
yeah,
all the
soccer,
other
yeah.
stuff that you've got going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And real estate, yeah.
And you're doing some real estate, so you're pretty damn busy.
Yeah, way to make
Well,
the
you
rest
have to-
of us
when
look
it-
lazy.
Yeah, I
Well,
know.
it's weird because when you're a single mom, you figure out businesses that you can do where you can bring your kids.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if you're showing a house, you know, and you're doing residential, especially, you're showing houses to families. So if
Right.
you've got your kids with you, you know, some find it, you know, not professional. Well, I mean,
You do what you do.
Yeah, and my kids are great, and I was like, and it never was a problem.
Right.
So that's what you do.
Plus that everyone always has an oldest, and the oldest always knows. That's your job. You keep everyone over there in that corner.
Yeah.
We're working over here. You stay in that corner.
Yeah. Don't move.
Yeah.
Don't move.
Yeah.
So okay. So how old are you at this time?
Oh gosh. Let's see. I was married to my first husband for almost 9 years. So I was almost 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was, let's see. So it was about 2.5 years or 3 years or so. Brian was not quite in school. My other 2 were in school. So Brian was probably, well, no, he wasn't even quite 3. He was, I think, a couple months before 3 years old, because I remember that now. So he was 2. So I was, 30 some odd, 33, 30,
But you
whatever.
hate all this. You're like, don't ask ages.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just-
I'm
we're
trying to
just gonna-
remember.
It's trying
I
to
don't know.
piece it all together.
Yeah.
We'll give you
Yeah.
numbers,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
threes.
Yeah. Maybe I should have just said roundabout.
Yeah.
Ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in your early 30s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all this is going on. You've been divorced. You're trying to keep it all together. You're selling a couple houses. So
Mm-hmm.
things are starting to look up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you meet a guy that, you know, you were coaching the soccer team. So he had somebody on the soccer team.
Yeah, his son Austin,
Okay.
who now is mine,
Mm-hmm.
is 30 days, exactly 30 days older than Stephen. So I had, I was coaching his team / my son's team, and we met, and he asked me out, and then 6 weeks later asked me to marry him. And it was one of those things where it sounds silly and sounds like you want to be saved. It had nothing to do with that, because back then I had sold 12 homes in 6 months. So I had, I had some money put away. In other words, marrying Mark was not out of necessity. It was
Right. Had
because
that been 2 years earlier, it may have.
well,
may-
no, I
may
wouldn't
have-
marry somebody out of necessity,
but it would have appeared.
right.
Yeah.
But here it wasn't like that. It was a complete gift. I can't explain it. It was, amazing. So we got married in front of a bush in Palm Desert the next day. We had like 3 people or 4 people there, and we just, lived and stayed in love. And I had identical twins daughters. So at this point, I had 6 kids, and with regard to the coffee cart, he said he didn't want me doing the coffee cart, so I had to close that business. And it wasn't out of control. It was just basically he wanted me home, and he knew, with me having to go to the commissary, and I had a couple employees, but, it was far too much time. So he said, just focus on real estate. And
Well, I imagine twins is like the biggest hurdle for a mother. Like that's like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mother Olympics
Yeah.
right there is
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
twins.
Yeah, newborns. Yeah.
so we had identical twin daughters, and I'm an identical twin, so that was what it was leave it to me, the black sheep.
To recreate more black sheep.
Yeah, no, I mean, the doctor said I had literally a better chance of winning the lottery. I remember in the NICU, he had a calculator, he was trying to figure out the odds, and he's like,
you should have bought a ticket that day.
Yeah, he said it was in the billions. He said, you being an identical twin and having identical twin girls, he said, yeah, fraternal maybe would have been, but he goes, identical, no. He goes, so, like, yeah.
So now where you're at in your life, okay, all the way from high school where it's been turmoil and issues and, you finally see some smooth sailing.
Yeah. And so then I applied to University of Redlands and started my bachelor's degree.
Okay. So up to that point, you were only working towards your AA?
No, I never even got my AA. I just got enough credits and stuff, and I have plenty of credits actually to get into a 4-year college.
So it's safe to say that from the time that you started going into college and taking college courses to the time that you got accepted into Redlands for your bachelor's program, 10 years.
No, probably more, because I was 18. You graduate from high school.
Okay.
I went to Europe for a month, and then when school started back, I started going to school.
Okay, so your college timeline starts at 18. Redlands is we're going to say 32 ish, right in there. So 14 years you've been going to school, and you finally reached a point to where now you're going to work on your bachelor's degree. Right, and
I'm doing real estate. And
doing real estate. You're married. You've got all these kids and happy, and life is finally good for Jill.
Great, yeah.
And you are
a mess.
No, your life was going good. You've got 7 kids at this time.
Once I hit about 30, I think I hit my last one at 30. My youngest is only 8 now, so I should have stopped way sooner than I did.
I know, right?
Way sooner. But you know what? Now you've got the kids, happily married. Things are going, really, really well, and you get smacked upside the head with the ALS.
This is how it always works, right?
Yeah, not always.
I just kind of the way I feel like life's like that, though. Like if you want the good stuff, you gotta have the bad stuff. You gotta have the black to have the white. You gotta have the negative to have the positive, and the positive is always so much nicer after you've gone through the shit. Honestly, and so
definitely gives you a new perspective on it.
Yeah, you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, this sucks. I'm in the sucky part right now, but I just gotta slog it out, and it'll get better later. Yeah.
So it's been now 3 years since you were first diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed in 2015.
Yeah, so
2015.
Is
that far back?
That's when I was in my first year. Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? It's been a long time now.
It has been. That surprises me. So that's been quite a while.
Yeah, it was. That was horrible.
Yeah. But where are you at now with it? I mean, you're doing.
Yeah, it took me a long time. I was one of those people that had one of those undiagnosable rare genetic disorders. So they initially diagnosed me with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and I was like, well, that sucks. And then I just kept going. Like, I'm from the medical industry, and I had worked in the medical industry my whole life. And I won't lie, that was one of the biggest letdowns ever. When you're like, especially when you're like the person that makes the procedures and the policies and stuff, and you're so proud of everything. I was like just so disappointed at how crappy the medical system was. And I went and I saw a million doctors. I saw as many people as I could. Nobody could tell me, they would tell me chronic fatigue. You're just lazy. Like I remember being told I'm just lazy. And after I got told I had ALS, I was like, oh, to hell with you. I'm not taking that. There's no way I have ALS. It's not possible. I'm not dying in 2 years. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. You're a liar. And so I started just going to as many other doctors as I could, if they would see me, getting whatever tests done. And it was until COVID. That's how long it took, until COVID. And 2021 where I was like, you know what? I'm out of law school. We're all in COVID. None of these doctors know what they're doing. To hell with these people. I'm going to get my own DNA test. I'm going to figure it out because a DNA test will tell me absolutely what's wrong with me. So I paid out of pocket $250 and I talked to the lady. And the nice thing is when you do your own, when you talk to the doctor, you can be like, I want you to do this and I want you to do this. Just tell me how much it costs. And so that's what I did. And my test came back and they were like, you have a rare genetic disorder called Fabry's disease. And Fabry's disease is a lysosomal.
Like Febreze. That's how I tell the kids.
What's funny is they call it Fabry, and I'm like, hey, it's not fancy. It's a genetic disorder. Don't make it sound like Target.
Yeah.
Get Fabry at Target. No, it's Fabry's. It's a disease. Call it ugly names.
And there's like 2,000 people in the world that have it.
It's super rare, and so I don't process things the same way. My body doesn't make a certain enzyme, and like alpha galactoside, I believe is what it's called. And they have one drug on the market. It's called Galafold. And if you make the gene, the GLA gene, it's just crumpled up. You can take the pill. I don't even make the damn thing. So I have to go get infusions. I go in every other week and I get infusions. And
For how many hours?
Yeah, it started out as an 8-hour infusion. Now we're down to like 3 or 4, depending on. But it's a good chunk of my life, and I call it my oil change. I just go get my oil changed every other week, and then I'm good. So I got my oil change before I came to California. I'm ready to go.
So when you go in for the transfusion, your oil change, it's a 3-hour process. But does it kick your ass afterwards, or do you notice anything, or is it kind of in and out?
Oh, I missed it. I got COVID in 2021, and I missed it. I've been having infusions for 2 years now. I'm going on 3, and I've only missed one, and it was absolutely the worst thing that happened to me. And it took me about 4 months to recover from just missing one infusion. Yeah.
Wow.
I can't eat. I stop eating. My body doesn't process food because I don't have the enzymes necessary to process things. And so my body doesn't know what to do with fat. So it sticks it on my kidneys and sticks it on my liver. I was getting close to stage 3 liver failure before I got diagnosed with this. And I was like, I'm not even drinking. Like, oh my God. It was really embarrassing for me. I won't lie, because I was like, my friends are going to think I'm an alcoholic because I have liver failure, It was really embarrassing. But now, my liver's fine. My liver enzymes are down. I'm not stage 2. I don't have fatty liver anymore. Everything's going well. My blood pressure's dropped, surprisingly. I've always sat at 120/80, and I thought that was good. And now I'm at 110/70, and I'm a smoker. So, it's interesting to see how much it has affected me and how much energy I've gotten back. And, there's certain things you have to watch out for. Like, I got to watch out for energy vampires, people that are very emotional, that suck emotions out of you.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for me. That'll put me down faster than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
But I mean,
there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those. There's a lot of people that come into your world, come into your life, specifically just to drop their garbage on you.
Yeah.
And that's where the emotional, that side comes
What's my
into play.
famous saying? Clean off your porch.
That's why Jill's in my life.
Yes.
Clean off your
So
porch.
she can be like Brandi.
Yeah. Exactly. So, you've got Febreze under control.
Yep.
Not to make light of it. So if anybody's listening, I'm just kidding. But and I always say I always say that if anybody's listening. But okay, so you've got it under control. You're feeling healthy. What's the prognosis? What do you? Is this just something that you're going to do for?
Well, this is it for me for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And there's so few people that have what I have. You're not supposed to be able to really have more than 2 kids. So the fact that I have 7 is, I don't know.
And they're healthy kids.
Yeah, I don't know if there's
kids.
anyone else, any other female in the world with Fabry's that has 7. Honestly, I don't. I go to my doctors and I ask them, like, how long am I going to live? How long can I be on this infusion before, like, I build a tolerance? They have no idea. Like, there's quite literally only 2 drugs in the world that they can give you. You know, like, they have no idea. You know, when you do the Hill stick with babies when they're born, they test for Fabry's.
Oh, they do?
That's one of the tests.
That's
The heel stick, and they just discovered.
I didn't know that. I thought that was only for, you know, jaundice.
Right, and they just discovered in the last few years that it doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, really? Wow. Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of brings up you to pretty much the present, from all the stuff that you've been through, where you were at, no education, basically, starting to self-teach, going back to school.
Yeah.
You know, tell us about that, going back to school now, because you got your
I'm a mess.
you got your GED early on. Yep. And then how many years before you went back and actually started taking college courses?
Oh man, I remember my first husband was like, we should go to college. And I was like, And so I think we maybe took like 6 credits together, and then I just dropped that. And I try here and there when it was like fun or it was like a great idea. Never really aimed anywhere.
Yeah.
So I built up a bunch of wasteful credits, like, you know, just a bunch of credits there's nothing you could do with because I couldn't make up my mind. I couldn't settle on anything. One week I wanted to be an anthropologist, and the next week I was going to be a psychologist, and then the week after that, you know, I was a PE teacher, for God's sake. So I just had a bunch of credits, and it was when I was about 31, I was like, all right, I definitely don't want to be working for, like, the mafia anymore. I don't want to be doing this hustle. So I went to University of Phoenix. And I got my bachelor's in healthcare.
When did you do that?
I already had about 60 credits, so I only had to do a year and a half at University of Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
So I went in and I did a year, and it wasn't maybe 2000 years. 2010 me? No.
Yeah, it was a little
12, 13? I don't know. But I know I went in, I did a year and a half, and then I was like, oh, I've always been irresponsible. I don't want to pretend like I've ever been more than irresponsible. Please don't ever think that of me. And I was like, oh, student loans have to be paid back. No, I was so proud I got a bachelor's degree, and now I have to pay bills, and I really don't want to.
And how do you delay it?
So I was
Start grad school.
That's right. I was like, so I'll go to law school. That'll take a long damn time. Yeah. I won't have to pay that loan back for a while.
Wait, outsmart the government. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
we just added another $50,000.
Yeah, exactly. Like bad decisions.
8% interest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, let's do that.
Seems to be an ongoing theme in life is bad decisions here.
Yeah, well, you know, one bad decision led to law school.
Yeah. Right?
Okay, now you brought us up. You're in law school. We'll be back. Jill, you're married. Mm-hmm. You're married. 7 kids.
Uh-huh.
Doing some real estate.
I have 6 kids.
6 kids.
Yeah.
Things are good.
Mm-hmm.
Things are real good.
Started my bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets hard, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is where it gets a little hard. I was about 2 classes from finishing up my bachelor's degree in business. I got a bachelor's of science in business from the University of Redlands, and I went out to dinner with my husband, and I said, I really want to go to law school. I was thinking about teaching and going into special ed teaching. I had been working at my kids' school, because at this point I was doing real estate, but I was volunteering in my kids' school in every one of them. So then Mark said, why don't you go and, maybe apply some kind of all over the place, apply to, like maybe actually instead of volunteering, actually go and apply and get a job, actually in the school district. So I did, and I started working in the special needs department and completely fell in love with it. Absolutely could not wait to get to work. And
was it because you think that your background and you being in special needs through school.
Yeah, I understand kids better than a lot of people in that regard. I understand what it feels like to know that you're different. Even when these kids that have severe autism, they know they're different. Down syndrome kids, they know they're different, and I approach them differently because I've always been different. I've always been the black sheep of the
Do
family.
you and we'll get back to your story, but do you look at dyslexia and ADD as being an actual special needs, or do you think it's just that it was at a point in time they just didn't know what to do with it?
No, I was definitely special needs because there's different severities of dyslexia, and there's spectrums, and just like autism or anything else, you can be at this spectrum or that extreme. It depends. So for me, they kept trying to hold me back, and the only reason they didn't hold me back in school was because I had an identical twin, and they were worried about what it would do emotionally. When we were in kindergarten, they separated us for the first time. We went to Montessori, and they separated us, and we had to actually have daily visits because I kept melting down because I wasn't with my twin. So it was like so they, all the way through school, they were like, we by the time I was in 5th grade and they actually diagnosed me, they wanted to hold me back, and my mom said, absolutely not. It's gonna, it just, and then like in 7th grade, 8th grade, they wanted to hold me back, and she wouldn't allow it because she knew it would be hard on me emotionally. But I was definitely behind, definitely.
Right. So now you've actually got a job and you are working.
Yeah. And I started
special
working,
needs.
and so, and all along I was getting my bachelor's degree, and I was doing that, and I decided that I remember going out to dinner with Mark, and I said, I think I want to go to law school instead of staying and getting my master's in special needs. And he said, I'll support you. And I said, really? I was just completely shocked. I was so excited. And he proceeded to set up an office for me and got me all ready. And so I had 2 classes left. And he went diving and out in Catalina, and he was killed. And so I had 6 kids by myself, and police officer showed up at the door, and he was killed, and I thought it was an accident, and it turned out that he was actually murdered. And so we went through 2 years of murder trials and civil cases, and but I knew what he was telling me, so I had to finish out my bachelor's degree. So I went back to school 2 weeks later after, but this was before it turned out that he was murdered, but he was killed, and it was very, very horrible. And as he was my best friend, and we were very, very close. Everybody used to call us newlyweds all the time. Oh my gosh, you guys make me sick. You make me sick. You have all these kids, and you guys are so in love. And blah, blah, blah. And we were very, very close. So I knew he would be angry not angry, but disappointed if I didn't finish my bachelor's degree. So I went back to school 2 weeks after he passed. I remember walking in the door, and the dean of students said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I said, "My husband wants me here." And he said, "Jill, it's okay. You can take time off. We won't, it won't compromise your bachelor's degree." And I said, "My husband wants me here." So I finished out, and I think my GPA wasn't great. It was at a 3.67 or 3.70, I guess. So it was, the last 2 classes were hard. So, but I did it, and we went through a lot, just getting through. But I never lost sight of the fact that he said, "Okay, go to law school." So.
Right. So you lose Mark. You finish your bachelor's degree, and you have the kids at home. But also too, now you've got criminal trials that you've got to go through. You got to go through civil trials. You got a long process that you've got to be. You basically are being drugged through.
Well, and it's hard when you've got criminal trials, but then when somebody calls you and says, "Yeah, we just arrested so and so for first-degree murder," and it was like, "What?" That was hard. You know what I mean? So that just adds to it packs the punch. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Right. So your journey now has taken another, and not to be simplistic about it, but it takes another turn and rocks you back on your heels. And you've got kids. You finish the bachelor's degree. You go through, and without getting into details on the trial itself, it didn't go quite the way that it should have went.
No.
And sitting and watching it, it was a part of you being an attorney today, I believe.
It was, but it wasn't, which is interesting because you would think that, because I want to be a criminal defense attorney,
Right.
I do. And my dream job is to work in juvenile defense and work with special needs, because there's a lot of kids now, adults, that are, they're special needs. They're to a point where they can go and take the bus, and they can order a hamburger. Like, in other words, they're
Functioning.
right. But then the parents pass away, and maybe they don't have any accommodations, and then they went out on the street, and then there's a lot of that. And I wanted, that going through what I went through in court, you would think that I would be the angry one I want to be the DA. I want to be the prosecutor and just, stick it to him. It wasn't like that. You know what I mean? It's like Mark knew what I wanted to do, and it's being special needs, and then working in special needs, and working in ED, which is emotionally disabled kids, which a lot of them were gang kids and stuff, and they used to call me mom. I was very protective of my gang kids, because they were, not on the spectrum. They were, but the reason why they weren't doing really well in school is because of their environment. And I do believe that's where I really wanted to become. I kept thinking to myself, and I remember having dreams of, of
Becoming an honorary
Latin
King.
Yeah. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm going, I want to protect these kids, and how do I do it? And I know you're going to wind out in jail, and, well, you already have an ankle bracelet. And and I remember thinking, like, it's Christmas time, and we have 2 weeks off school. Where are these kids? And sure enough, one of them would get, inevitably, or a couple of them inevitably would get in trouble because they were out on the street. They weren't having Christmas like we all did, you know. So I just wanted to protect them, but I didn't become angry. So that's where that superseded anything with regard to what I went through in court and seeing this person, that hurt Mark,
Right.
And so it still to this day supersedes anything.
So you've gone through all of this. That is just, I don't think anybody, unless they have gone through it, has any idea of the emotional pain, the feelings, of what a person would go through with that kind of loss.
Yeah. The tearing away.
In the tearing away of it, people go through a lot of anguish and hurt and pain, losing a loved one, maybe to cancer or heart attack, or some of these things that unfortunately we as humans will justify, but when something's like this and it's torn away, and you get a knock at the door, and it's really would not be hard for anybody to say, you know, take a break. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to prove anything. You can, you know, I mean, truthfully, something like that with kids, if you just start drinking, you know, I don't think anybody could say a word about it. The devastation is so great. But you didn't. You didn't. You got up, and how I like to refer to things like that, pulled your britches up, put your shoes on, one step at a time, and you started moving forward.
It's amazing what kids would do. I think, honestly, if I didn't have my kids, I probably would have died. A broken heart, I would have died somehow, because my kids are absolutely, I understand when people say people die of broken hearts. It's true. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely true. And
you soldiered on. You moved on. You moved.
Yeah.
My belief in life is that you never, ever, you know, when people say, oh, you just, you know, it's been 5 years, it's been 10 years, it's been 15 years, you need to get over it. There is no getting over it, ever.
They say
ever.
Time heals.
No, it doesn't.
Time does not heal.
No.
You acclimate.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
that's actually an excellent way of putting it.
Yeah.
You acclimate to your new world, but it will never take the place of.
Right.
You know, it's just kind of a fork on the road, and you just now go into a different direction. Mm-hmm. But in that analogy, in taking the fork in the road in the different direction, you still are carrying that emotional impact. And this is where we're going to combine the two of you with everything that both of you have gone through. You know, I mean, you with this disease that, you know, just was handed to you, and very few
My
people.
Gift.
Yeah. Nature's gift to you. Yours, losing your best friend, losing a husband, starting all over. And the paths that you got there, married at 17, quit high school, has to get a GED,
yep,
dancing in strip clubs, you know, drugs involved, all the things that you went through, all the things you have gone through, molestation, your dyslexia and your ADD and special needs and failed marriage, all of these things. And here I'm looking at probably two of the strongest fucking women I've ever met in my life.
Oh, I don't want to meet Jill in an alley. Oh, no.
And I'm sure she feels the same about you. But it is absolute truth that two people, and this is the message that I hope people pull from this podcast, is that you can never say you're going to quit something if you really want it bad enough. If you're quitting something, you just didn't want it bad enough. Because if you want it bad enough, like I've seen the two of you want this Juris Doctorate, to be an attorney, as bad as the both of you, nothing slowed you down. Nothing stopped you.
Got two bookend lawyers here.
That's right. That's what happens.
And
it's very different, but yet we're in the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
We end here.
So for you, I want to go back to you for 1 second, because your story is still not complete. Because when Mark left, you went and got your bachelor's, and then you went and got accepted back into law school.
Yeah, I finished out my last 2 classes, and then applied for law school, because I promised him, and that's what, you know, it's for him at this point. And I started law school, and it was in a brick and mortar, so I was gone 3 nights a week. And by this time, I had met you. So this was 2 years later, because I took a little time off, obviously, because I had to get through the trials.
It's been 8 years ago, I think.
Well, it was two. I'm talking about post-Mark.
Post-Mark. Oh,
yeah.
I see. Yeah, so it's been almost 10 then.
Yeah. So post-Mark, I had to get through the criminal trials and civil trials, and that was very hard because, of all the, over and above everything with the civil trials, especially all the paperwork involved in the insurance companies, and it's just a bitch and a half. But, and of course, just being so broken, you don't, it's weird, but you don't ever. Anyway, so then I met you, and I had applied to law school before, like, you and I really started, like, throwing our lives together. And then I started law school, and I was in school, and I was 3 nights a week. And then Lexi, my youngest, well, I shouldn't say youngest twin. I mean, the twins are, a minute apart. So she's the youngest of the minute. She said, I was walking out the door to go to school, and I kept thinking, God, I miss my kids. I'm gone 3 nights a week. And she said, Mom, I need help with a math problem. And I said, okay, honey, I gotta go. I said, can it wait till tomorrow morning? And she said, no, it'll be too late then. I remember those words are just burn in my brain. I kept thinking, and I remember it was on a Monday night. I was sitting in class, and it was in contracts. And I was sitting there, and I just had tears going down my face. I was going like this, and I'm thinking, I kept looking around going, what the hell am I doing? My kids need me. My kids are still babies. And we're all still trying to heal. What the hell am I doing? And I thought I was doing this right thing because I promised Mark, and I was like, but my kids needed me. They weren't ready. I finished out the class that night and then never went back. And sure enough, about a week and a half later, the doctors told me that my mom was going to be going on hospice. So, and she was supposed to live 6 months, 2 weeks. So I was there with her. So it was a blessing that I stopped. So, and then,
yeah, it was just,
that's
one more little detour in life that,
so when you put people first, and there's nothing wrong with, not that I'm saying you're saying it's wrong, but I'm saying, like, to me, family's always first, period. If you want it, you do it, but not at the expense of,
Right.
So
it just wasn't the right time.
Which is why I went to online school. People look at online school as kind of, a lot of gray out of a Cracker Jacks box, but it's not. I mean, it was a
well, I think that was
hard,
like that, I think that's a conversation that we just had the other day, that online schooling, whether it's for law or your bachelor's or a master's or whatever, online schooling is going to become more and more prominent as time goes on, because schools are learning that, they're always searching for more ways to make money. They're looking at that now. I mean, you're going to see schools, and could be wrong, but I doubt it, but you're going to see prestigious schools where people really want, whether it's a Stanford or a Berkeley or wherever that it is, that all of a sudden are going to be opening the doors to a lot more people because they can do it online, and it's about the dollars. It isn't about keeping the...
to me, it's smart business.
Absolutely.
It is totally
It's a
smart
business decision. It has nothing to do with quality of education or this or that, but total business. Yeah.
So what's going to end up happening is it's going to edify online schooling. It's going to... Online schooling will no longer look as though it's less than the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense to begin with. I mean, you show up at a brick and mortar and you go in, you listen to the same professor, that you're going to sit there and you're going to look on your computer screen.
Well, pretty soon every quote unquote brick and mortar is going to have an online school. So it's not going to be, there's going to be no such thing as a quote unquote brick and mortar anymore. It'll just be like, where do you go to school?
Yeah. And
like, what's the name of the school that you attend?
Right.
Because you can do that anywhere now.
Well, and I think what's going to end up happening too is that, you can enroll, you can go to a brick and mortar, but it's going to be also a choice. I'm not going to go today.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay at home and I'm going to watch. So you can either go or you can stay.
Yeah, I'm allergic to school desks. I don't know if you know this, but even, when I would have to go to my kids, PTA meetings and stuff, I was the parent that would head right on the desk every time and
really
fall asleep. I'm allergic. I don't know what it is. Just
Brian, that's funny. You have that problem too. Brian had that problem.
I'm serious,
now
man.
I know what
It's an allergy.
How to identify
It's a deathly allergy.
God. And no cure, right?
No, it comes with concussions as a side effect. It's a problem.
It's hard being the smartest one in the room, isn't it?
That's fine.
Yeah. So, okay, so now this is where the two of you get to have fun, because now both of you are in law school. Both of you, different times, different schools, but now you're both in law school, you're working on this. Tell us about your experience in law school, because this is
this is going to be fun. This is where I get to take these off and sit back and go, okay, ready? Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I had an experience. I was just absolutely like, I wanted this to work. I wanted it to work. Like you said, if you want it, you make it work.
Yeah.
And so I was like too afraid to ask questions. I think I might have asked 3 questions in all of law school. The first question, first year of law school, you'll love this one, Jill. What's the difference between subjective and objective? And then I spent about 150 pages of writing. Unilateral means you perform, and bilateral means I don't have to. Over and over. But there was like some basic concepts that, quite honestly, I come from the reservation. So there's a lot of things I didn't understand in law school, and there's still a lot of things I don't understand. I'm not going to pretend like business and corporations is where I need to be practicing at all. Nope, not me. But
but you love evidence, don't you?
Oh, evidence.
Yes.
But,
It's her nemesis. She hates evidence. But I, of course, love it.
It's nothing like you think it's going to be, though. It's nothing like you think it's going to be. So everything I was expecting, I'm like really expecting some Socratic, like, get ready, they're going to quiz you. No. It was just a lot of reading and a lot of homework and a lot of figure it out on your own. A lot of go
that's one thing
figure it out.
with the brick and mortar. We did a lot of Socratic method, whereas online it's, no, there's no Socratic method. Which Socratic method for me is good because it forces you to be prepared. Are they going to call on me?
Engage.
Yeah. But online school is so much better for me because I wanted to be at home with my kids, even though I wasn't with my kids, but they were there and if they needed me, I stopped what I was doing.
With you, you're in law school, which is difficult no matter who you are. I mean, if you make it into law school and you go to law school, the process of law school is amazingly difficult. And it isn't just because you have to learn the law, but you have to learn law in a certain way. You have to learn to speak differently. You have to learn to write differently.
Yeah, it's definitely a language.
And the schools, and you and I have had a podcast in the past about law schools, and they basically want to set it up for failure.
Yeah.
In my viewpoint, I mean, they from the very beginning, the first day of the orientation,
yes.
They're telling you, look to your left, look to your right. 72% of you will not be
70.
here. They're 80 or whatever the hell it was.
It was 90%. You'll have only 10 of you. There's 100 people in this room. Only 10 of you will be left.
I started with 250 and ended with like 13.
I was at
you were at 227 and ended up with 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy, but they
put that seed.
They put that seed. They bury that seed inside your head, and they tell you it's okay not to continue on. They make it easy. It's kind of like
my husband calls it boot camp. He's like, they want to wash out. They want to see who's going to wash out.
I call it SEAL training. It's the same. It's the same thing, because the Navy SEALs, they've got the bell that you have to ring, and what ends up happening is you're ice cold, you're tired. Hey, go ring the bell. They literally come to you, very nice. They'll talk to you. Go ring the bell. It's okay. We understand. You wouldn't be the first one.
Yep.
We got some coffee on the inside. It's nice and warm. We'll give you some blankets to cover back up.
You can do the EJD. It's okay.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
And then
get your master's in law.
Don't worry. Get a master's. Be a
so
teacher.
they basically try to get you to do it.
Yeah.
To quit, to give up. Mm-hmm. With the two of you, little they know the fucking persistence that each one of you have and what you've been through in your lifetime. You are not you are not the type of people to give up.
No, we know what chicken shit looks like. Yeah. We ain't doing that again.
In fact, Brandi, is teaches. She teaches baby bar students and also for the general bar too. And she taught me how to teach. So all the way through school, from my second year on, I had, people that I was tutoring all the way through law school. And that's one thing that helped us is learn, when you're teaching while going to law school, it definitely.
Yeah. So how many times did both of you, individually want to quit?
Oh, all the time.
I quit 4 times.
I quit all the time, constantly.
Did you quit? You quit.
I think I've thrown books. I've burned books.
Yeah, something with one of your books in
I threw
snow.
my property book. Well, I threw my Finn's book in the snow. I burned my property book on Halloween. I've railed against this for like all 4 years of it.
Literally quit. Like I'm done. Screw you. This is not okay. Life is too short for this shit. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Many times you've got to, though, because if you don't, you can trick your brain to do just about anything. You can believe just about anything you tell yourself. I used to tell people I acknowledge your reality and I substitute my own. Nice to meet you, And I've kind of taken that and realized, you can trick yourself. And sometimes it's okay to do that. And so, if you got to tell yourself you quit because you just can't do it anymore, then just tell yourself you quit if that will make you feel better. Yep. And, it's kind of like a version of mothering yourself.
Well, it's like perception is more truthful than truth.
Yeah.
So.
How you feel about it. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say, so when you take the bar exam, there's, for my bar exam, there's 1,500 people just in Ontario. There's also 1,100 people the same day in Pasadena. And then there was, another, big conference, whatever in San Diego. And then up north, there was Oakland, Sacramento, and whatever. So we're talking 11, But this is every year, right? They pick 3 model answers of all those people. And they do that for the baby bar, too. They pick 3 model answers. You put them up, they put them up on the website. So you kind of.
What is a model answer?
Explain.
They're not the best
and I'm
answer.
going someplace with
they're
this.
Like middle answer. So they're not the best answer. They're not 100, but they're not the average answer, which would be like a 65. They're in between. They're in law school. I think that would be the equivalent of an A. You hit all the issues. You saw everything you needed to see. You got all the rule statements right. And this is exactly what we wanted from you. No less, no more, no less. Exactly what we wanted from you.
So when you study for the bar or in the baby
That's
bar
what you
after
aim
the first
for.
year, you go back to the past bar exams because they publish them. And then you look at the model answers. And they pick 2 model answers, actually not 3, 2 model answers every year for each question. Not question, but each fact pattern, right? So Brandi got the model answer published for the baby bar.
Yep.
This is somebody that said subjective and objective. What the hell does that mean?
And it was a contracts question, which is why it's hilarious because I asked the dumbest questions.
Yeah, and she's like, so she got hers published, which is a huge big deal.
That's crazy.
Well, you know what though? I tell people, I'm like, I look at that today and I'm like, oh my God, somebody should have made me stop going to law school. was so
No,
bad.
but we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people all over California, right? And she got one of the two.
So, okay, going back to all of the people that are taking the test, the way that the bar works, there's only, 2 test days every year?
Well, for
Or
the
I
baby
guess-
bar, it's one test day,
But don't they-
but it's twice a year.
So
Okay.
the bar exam is 2 days, but
And the bar,
in California is held on the same day that the UBE is held. And the UBE is the what does the UBE stand for? Universal Bar Exam? United Bar Exam, something with a
think it's-
U
yeah.
that sounds fun like that.
No,
I
I think
imagine.
it's universal.
But every state, most states are UBE jurisdictions. I think they're 22 UBE jurisdictions, and they all test on the same day. So all over the United States, when Jill sat for her test, everyone else that wanted to be a lawyer was sitting the same day in their state.
Oh, in their state. So California isn't
Unique there.
unique
No.
there. So across the country,
Yep.
everybody was taking the bar on the same 2 days you did.
Yep.
And then if there's a bar also in July, it's same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the baby bar, it's one day, twice a year, and it's on the same day. Same thing. So
My question is, and now it's even more grand, the number of students that are taking the bar on the same day, it's got to be,
It's pretty large.
yeah,
it's got to
It
be in the
varies.
100,000s.
Well, I mean, it varies. I mean, yeah. Some states are larger than others. Like so California has the hardest bar. It is the
Yeah.
hardest in
Yeah.
the country.
yeah, it's
the
known
hardest.
to be the
El
hardest.
numero
And
uno.
why-
In fact,
And-
we're the
and-
only bar that's closed book.
Yeah.
Every other bar exam in the United States open book, but we are closed book.
And why do you think that they're that way?
Because they allow people to go in through the apprentice program, and they allow people to sit like me and Jill did. So they're, and it's rapidly changing,
We weren't in the apprentice program, but we were on the online.
Well, we were on
apprentice
the
program.
online.
Yeah, apprentice is different.
But they're
It's the Kardashian route. How
Prior-
she's sitting, yeah.
Okay.
prior to 2018, there were really no options unless you wanted to go to an ABA approved school in the state in which you resided, or move to a state and go to an ABA approved school. That was really the only method, because the ABA has a monopoly on this thing, right? They have the bar exam, and you can't practice without you passing the bar. You can't pass the bar. You can't sit for the bar unless you went to an ABA school. So they're the gatekeepers. And, California has been, for the longest time, the state that allowed people to go to unaccredited law schools that, Better Call Saul type law, like the mail and legal courses, right? Or to do the apprentice. I mean, it was really the only way that people that didn't go traditionally would have an opportunity. And I think as a result of that, they put the baby bar in place to make sure that they weren't just paper milling people, and that makes sense to me. I get that. I don't want to work with a bunch of jokers. But, 2018 hit, and a lot of other states saw, and I don't know if they were acknowledging the success of California. I don't know if California could call it a success, but they saw what was happening in California. And I think what they realized is they need lawyers. Like in New Mexico, we have 3 counties that have 0 attorneys. 3 whole counties. There's a lot of people with not a single lawyer that lives in that damn county. Like, what do? You're SOL, talk about access to justice. So I think people saw that California had an abundance of lawyers, and they were like, well, how do we get an abundance? And they started trying to pick up some of those. And so in 2020 or 2019, they changed the bar in California. It used to be 3 days, and it went to 2. And then they changed the accreditation. So now we're, the schools that we went to were unaccredited online schools, and now they're state of California accredited.
Yeah.
Not ABA, but still they're state of California accredited.
And there's a lot of reciprocal states now. If you pass the bar in California, it's like the elite, because it's the hardest exam. So there's a lot of reciprocal states too. So you can go in and take, like the written, I think like one day. You don't even have to do the multiple choice, and you can, if you pass, you can practice, in this state without getting a pro hoc vice, which is just a one-time go into court type thing.
So what's the failure rate at the bar?
Well,
it depends.
It's 28 to 32% pass.
It's
depending.
Well, the bars you're supposed, yeah. I think California sits at 60 to 75. average.
Oh, yeah. Oh, not,
Yeah.
no, failure rate, not pass.
No, for the bar exam, I think it's a 60 to 70% pass rate.
No.
Yes.
No, I just
Wasn't
looked it
that
up.
that 1 year? Wasn't there 1
Oh,
year?
yeah, during
The
COVID.
baby
remember,
bar, the
when
baby bar
everybody
is
said-
15 to 20%. So the baby bar has the low
Okay,
pass
because
rate.
I had a 18% pass rate when I took the baby
Yeah,
bar.
the baby bar is 15 to 20. The bar exam, well, the ABA says that if you're going to be ABA accredited, you're supposed to graduate 80% of your students after 2 years, I think, or something
I don't
like.
know. I looked
they
it
have to
up.
pass the bar exam. Like they have to have an 80% pass rate.
Oh no, but I passed. I looked at
Or
the bar exam like for the percentages, and it said I think between 28 and 32% pass rate for California for like whoever sits for the.
So
damn
what
bar
is that?
as
What
far as
does
pass
what
rate.
does that say? That Brian brought something up there.
What's it say? First time?
Yeah, so that's the
Oh, okay,
repeaters.
so
Yeah,
you're right.
see, it sits between
You're
about
right.
60 and 75. Something.
Okay.
I thought.
That's the pass rate then for
Yeah.
for
So
the first time was 73%.
73% people pass.
Pass,
In the first
yeah.
day? First
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, that's first timers.
That's interesting.
So you're looking at the repeaters.
Oh, I
See,
guess I must have been looking at something.
and what you're
different.
looking at is the unaccredited distance school. That's where Jill and I, Jill and I both, our schools were considered unaccredited distance. So look at those results. That's why
okay.
it's so
Oh,
crappy.
maybe that's what I
That's
was
what you're
looking
looking at. Is
Yeah, that top one, see 25%.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh,
looking
so
at.
they're making the ABA look like that's the outstanding. You want to go that route,
Right. And it's really, it has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with the fact that most of the people that go to an unaccredited distance school
Yeah.
are like, what do I call myself? A fat 40-year-old midlife career changer. You know, like, we don't all want to pass the bar. You know, some of us have good careers and we just want to add on to what we're doing already. So,
Right.
Yeah.
But, Jill's
But I
one
want
of
to
the,
do trial work. I
Yeah.
want to be a
Yeah.
trial attorney. So.
Yeah. So
but they are very daunting statistics.
Yeah, that's what I was
but-
looking at because that said 25%. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was between 28 and 32%.
but does that take into consideration the people that don't even finish
No, not at all.
no, because what I'm saying is that Jill was telling me, and I probably get this wrong, but when you were taking the bar, the number of people that originally started was like about
It was
1,500.
1,500. Yeah.
And there were probably 50 vacant seats when you got back from lunch.
Yeah.
That-
Well,
that-
and so you have bar applicants in there, and they just take the 1-day exam or whatever. So the next day there was literally less than half. It was really weird. But when I got back from lunch, the bar exam questions were so hard this year because they changed it up. I didn't expect it this year. They're supposed to change it up in 2025 and 26, but they changed it up. And there was about 50 people that got up and walked out, and there was about another 30 or so that wanted their computers back after lunch because you can't, obviously, you can't take your computers with you unless it's wiped out, obviously.
Right.
They couldn't just pick up their computers and walk out because they could have typed out questions or whatever. But so there was probably about 80 people or so the first before lunch that walked out.
Yeah. Wow. It's incredible.
And it happened. The funny thing is, in 2015, they accidentally on the baby bar ran a 2L question. And there were reports of people so irate that they were smashing their laptops and just storming out. And that's the thing. It's emotional.
Yeah.
It is.
It is. A lot of people put a lot into this. It is more than just money and time.
People
it is,
get sick.
It's hearts
Sick
and souls and
and
hopes
pride
and
and-
dreams
yeah.
and
Why would the baby bar actually be harder than the actual bar?
because we're all the poor people. They don't want us in this. They don't want us in this club.
So the only people that have to take the baby bar are the ones that are from the unaccredited?
From the distance.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the best thing ever for me to walk in the bar exam and never have taken the baby bar. I would have freaked. I mean, it was just, that would have been, I'm
Well-
so glad that we did the baby bar.
Well, it amazes me then, because I didn't know that at the baby bar, there were freaking 2,000 people to take. So all of those are from unaccredited
Yeah.
schools? That's crazy, because that was just in one location. So,
Yeah.
So they definitely do not have
So
a
now
monopoly.
you see why
on it.
law school created the EJD, so they could be like, if you don't pass, it's okay. You can be an EJD. They wanted to keep the money for all they.
Yeah.
They got sick of losing all those people. It's a lot of people to lose because you only have a 15 to 20% pass rate. Mm-hmm. So you got to find a way to keep them.
Yeah. So now you two girls struggle through life, and I'm going to say that unequivocally. I mean, it's definitely a struggle through your life to get to where you're at right now. You struggled through law school with a group of people that constantly reminded you that you're going to fail, and you should fail, and failing has, nothing to be ashamed of, so they've got you.
Came a long way, kid.
Yeah. You got to accept it, be excited about that. And you graduated, you've taken the bar, you're ready to go. What's it fucking feel like to be a rock star? I mean, that's really what it is when you stop and think about what you two have been through in your life, and then to find out. Let me put this a little bit in a layman's perspective when I'm watching and looking at the two of you. I see Jill being told at 14 years old that you'll never be an attorney. You can maybe be a secretary. Mm-hmm. You leave, you spend 14 years getting enough credits just to go get your bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. You go up, you're 2 classes from your bachelor's degree, and the love of your life, your best friend in the world's taken from you, and you finish. Mm-hmm. You get accepted into law school finally. You quit because your daughter still needs you at home. Mm-hmm. You go back, and then you spend 5 years nonstop.
It'll be, April 18th will be 5 solid years.
5 solid years nonstop. It's not like brick and mortar where you get summers off and you get all the holidays off. You're fucking straight through.
Straight through. No Christmas breaks, no spring breaks, no summer breaks.
Nothing.
No. The only breaks we had was a day and a half in between
classes.
Yeah, so after your final exam, you've got a day and a half break before you start another class.
And Brandi, you're the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You leave home at 15 years old, married at 17, have 2 kids by the time you're 20.
Get caught up in the mafia.
Get caught up in the mafia.
Well, you get caught up in drugs. You're doing what you got to do and dancing at a strip bar. You find yourself in precarious situations with people that a little, and put yourself through it. You go to school, you get your degree, you go into law school, and fucking story is amazing.
Well, and
you guys
add to it though, this one decides to write a habeas. Her first habeas corpus, which is really hard to get a retrial.
You're going to have to explain that to everybody that's listening. That's
a habeas. Go ahead.
Habeas corpus is just basically somebody saying, "Let my friend out of jail."
Yeah, it's a civil action against. Basically, it's a civil action.
Whoever is imprisoning them.
Yeah, it's somebody that's wrongfully imprisoned. It's a civil action to get them out, or get them retried, or get a sentencing reduced. And habeas is almost never granted. If it is, it's either a resentencing. Yeah. But you never get a retrial, and you never have them walk. This one got all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Yes, U.S. Supreme Court.
I have good arguments. I make good arguments.
Her first habeas all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which is unheard of.
So it's like overachiever. I mean, you get the question for the baby bar, and it's what you call it.
Wait, what?
Her baby.
The model answer?
She's got a model answer that nobody else gets. And then also, too, you get a habeas corpus that goes all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, not California Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah. That's even amazing, right?
Yeah. No, I'm just good with, I think I'm just good. I'm creative thinking outside the box because I didn't come from this world. Yeah. So I can kind of put things together that I guess you shouldn't put together. So that maybe you should never would have thought of putting together because you knew better. So
let me ask you each this, kind of in closing off on the podcast, what's next for you, Brandi? Where are you headed? What are you doing?
Well, you've got your school that you've started.
Yeah, I'm working on finishing my school. I've got a school, LA Law Institute. Shout out to them or to us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drag Jill in with me. We're doing that. I'm working for some friends. I'm helping them with some legal cases. We're working on one of the appellate teams for the Tory Lanes, and that will be next week, and that'll be interesting. I came up with a really good argument on the Tory Lanes case. I'm proud of it, and our friend's gonna go argue it in court
on Tuesday, right?
On Tuesday,
yeah,
so
oral arguments open.
That'll be good. And I got to do a malpractice claim. I've got to do crimes. I like doing things I've never done before. I just like new things, all new things. So I'm just gonna be doing new things. I don't like going back over things I've done. Like I feel like I did it. Like I did the torts action. Let's do something different. So I'm down for. Jill told me today she wants to write a book, and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. That's cool. I haven't done that. Let's do that. Books are good.
I think that's awesome. I think books.
We want to write a book.
Jill, what's up with you? Where are you headed now? What are you doing? Went through all of this, and now what are you going to do?
I want to do trial work, so I applied to the public defender's office and the DA's office. Public defender in LA, the DA's office in Orange County. I did get hired on for the public defender's office, and that's supposed to start in spring. I also got a judicial clerkship position offer, so I have to actually look into that because it's actually in LA. It's around the same, but it's in downtown LA, so it would be a different court. And I did make the first cut for the DA's office. Mm-hmm. So I want to do trial work, and I really want to write this book. It is about just basic rule statements. There's 725 rule statements that we as law students have to learn and know like the back of our hands, because like I said, it's a closed book test. Not only just analyzing it and issue spotting where those belong, but you have to know them cold. And they're so long and drawn out that Brandi and I are going to write a book that truncates these rule statements, and then we're also going to put it on audio and then on digital so that people can read it. And it's going to be geared towards special needs, ADD, ADHD, and severely dyslexic people, because we see things and we can visualize things. We're I don't even remember what it's called, but the learners that can actually
the visual learners.
Well, but it's not just visual learners. It's like you can actually see a movie in your head, like it's real, and it's a combination between that
photographic memory.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's not. It's more of there's a word for it. I can't remember. Somebody said it last week, and there's this new scientist, I guess, from Berkeley that did some podcast on it, which I want to find it or whatever. It was about this type of learner, and it's like something like 3% of the population or whatever, and it was just spoke to me. It was like, wow, that is so me. But also audio, because we walk or run or whatever, and we want to be able to listen. It's just rule statements, but to truncate them is really important, because these big box bar prep whatever, and I'm not bagging on them, but they're just so verbose. And
oh my God, forever.
And that's one of the things about bar prep, is that it's scary because you walk in and it teaches you something completely different than law school in the sense of the language. Like I'll look at things and I'm like, wait, this is not how we did our fact patterns. This is not an IRAC, is what they call issue rule, analysis and conclusion. The bar wants it CREAC, which is the conclusion.
Rule, explanation, analysis, conclusion.
It's completely different, but you're not taught that. So, and then to learn that, and then on top of this is these big box, bar prep, whatever. They're so verbose, 3-hour plus videos per subject, which is 12, but you've got 3 of them, so there's 12 hours per subject. It's overwhelming. So we're going to truncate it down, fine tune it, and teach people how to get through the bar exam without these long, drawn out.
The way it should be.
Yeah, simplify it.
Without all the bullshit in the middle.
Well, and make it fun. I was saying that the way that I tutor, it's like I said, like there's an impleader and interpleader when you're trying to join somebody on like a lawsuit. And my friend was like, I don't know the difference between impleader and interpleader. I can't remember. And I said, well, interpleading is, it's like you're having your kids and you're the judge, and you ask them. It's like you've got, you've got this one thing and they all want it, so you inject what you want. And I was like, I went through this whole thing, and she's like, I never forgot how you, I never forgot how you put these. So we put stories together and stuff, and they're very short and they're sweet, but they will
I am
remember
positive that whatever you both do individually and also together is going to be successful. You guys are both very, very amazing women that, really had all the reason in the world to quit and to give up and to slink off into just mediocrity, and neither one of you chose that path. And
Thank you.
You guys are really an inspiration, I think, to a lot of people thank you for sharing the story, both of you.
Thank you. I'm just glad to be able to have respectable friends like Jill now. I feel like I'm respectable by having respectable friends.
You got to remember, she comes with the rest of us, so don't be too.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go now. Hurry.
Yeah.
Get the keys.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Good night, everybody.
Thanks.